Chapter 4160. In just half a day, the Sea Clan's 6 islands suffered a devastating blow. Not only were the islands razed to the ground, but the Sea Clan on the islands were also captured. Even resources such as spirit veins and crystal veins disappeared one after another. However, no matter how hard the Dragon God and the others tried, they could not catch Qin Feiyang and the other two immediately. Every time they arrived at the scene of the incident, they were one step too late. This kind of helplessness almost made them collapse, especially the Sea Clan. They had never experienced this kind of despair. They were clearly right under their noses, but they could only watch helplessly as a few people did whatever they wanted in the Sea Clan. In the end, someone made a suggestion: transfer the Sea Clan from all places to the Sea God's island for protection. This suggestion undoubtedly solved the immediate crisis of the Sea Clan, because in this way, with the protection of the 3 major clans, especially the protection of the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan, no matter how bold Qin Feiyang and the others were, they would definitely not dare to attack the Sea God's island again. So, the island masters of each island ordered all the Sea Clan to rush to the Sea God's island. The most interesting thing was, when all the Sea Clan were transferred to the Sea God's island, all the clansmen of the Sea Clan immediately ordered the Dragon God to leave. The Dragon God originally wanted to personally protect the Sea God's island as an explanation to Neptune. However, looking at the people of the Sea Clan who were constantly insulting him, he was really angry in his heart. The Golden Tiger and a group of beast sovereigns almost fought with the Sea Clan. In the end, it was only under the persuasion of the king and the other 2 that both sides stopped the dispute. Helpless, the Dragon God could only take the Golden Tiger and a group of beast sovereigns and leave dejectedly the Black Tortoise World. At this time, another forbidden area, the Desert of Death. This was the place where Qin Feiyang had obtained the Black Tortoise World. The Fire Lotus had also swallowed countless undead and condensed flesh and blood here. The desert stretched as far as the eye could see. The storm rolled up the yellow sand all over the sky. In the deepest part, there was a majestic building, like a peerless beast, lurking here, exuding an aura that made one's heart palpitate. This was the divine treasure of the Black Tortoise World. Every time the divine treasures opened, this desert would become a battlefield. Therefore, this place was even more terrifying than when Qin Feiyang had first obtained the Black Tortoise Realm. The yellow sand had almost turned dark red, and the smell of blood filled the air. At this moment, at a certain place, millions of members of the Oceanids had gathered here. Looking around, panic was written all over his face. These were the sea folk that Qin Feiyang and the other 2 had captured over the past half a day. Where is this place? Why is there not even a shadow of a ghost? What is Qin Feiyang trying to do? Kill us? Could this be the tomb he prepared for us? Thinking of this, they couldn't help but feel their scalps go numb. No, I don't want to die. Everyone, look around. There must be an exit here. But at this moment, streaks of rule force descended from the sky. Millions of members of the sea folk looked up at the sky, their faces filled with fear. The power of rules descended, forming a huge barrier, trapping all of them inside. Destroy it! Escape! Many people roared in anger. Some activated their profound laws, some activated their divine techniques, and some took out their divine artifacts to attack the barrier. But in the end, they found that they could not shake the barrier at all. Why did it become like this? Lord Neptune, come and save us! Gradually, only helplessness and despair were left in their hearts. I never thought that the Black Tortoise Realm's rule force would be so strong. Even profound laws and heaven-defined divine artifacts can't shake it. Above the barrier, Qin Feiyang and the other 2 stood in the sandstorm, witnessing this scene with their own eyes. Their expressions were a little strange. That's right. Among these members of the sea folk, Many had mastered profound laws and heaven-defying divine artifacts. But even so, the barrier formed by the rule force showed no signs of breaking. Their strength is still too weak. If a group of members of the sea folk who have mastered profound laws comes, why don't you try and see if they can break this barrier? The white-eyed wolf pursed his lips. The overall strength of the various islands of the sea folk differed greatly. Powerful islands, such as the sea god's island, were ridiculously strong. But weak islands, just like the millions of sea folk on the 6 islands in front of them, the strongest had only mastered profound laws. Their status in the sea folk was similar to that of ordinary humans. However, even if they were ordinary humans, they were still members of the sea folk. Neptune had to care about them, otherwise it would make the other sea folk disappointed. This bargaining chip should be enough, right? Longchenpa asked, roughly estimating that there were at least 3 million sea folk here, plus the 500,000 to 600,000 sea folk suppressed in the Soul-Sealing Valley. There were almost 4 million. This number was still quite scary. Qin Feiyang nodded. The other sea folk had already been transferred to the sea god's island, so there was no chance to make a move now. Lord, at this time, Pai Lupi and Theta Wang flew over. Qin Feiyang looked at the two and asked, have you arranged the crystal veins and spirit veins for you? The number of spirit veins and crystal veins on the 6 islands was not small. Everything has been arranged. Pai Lupi nodded. How many exactly? White-eyed Wolf was curious. There are more than 8 million. Pai Lupi smiled. So many. White-eyed Wolf was stunned. It was a little unexpected. He thought that there would be at most 4 to 5 million crystal veins and spirit veins. Of course, the more spirit veins and crystal veins, the better. Pai Lupi grinned, looked down at the sea folk in the barrier, and asked, but these sea folk, do you plan to imprison them here? The sea folk below did not notice the few people standing in the sandstorm. Just imprison them here for now. Qin Feiyang nodded. Theta Wang was puzzled. I don't understand. Why do you have to separate these millions of sea folk from the hundreds of thousands of sea folk in the Soul-Sealing Valley? It's very simple. When we negotiate with Neptune, we must show some sincerity first. These millions of sea folk in front of us are prepared for this. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. I understand. If we hand over the hundreds of thousands of sea folk in the Soul-Sealing Valley to Neptune in advance, Neptune will find that their ultimate meaning has been deprived and will not negotiate with us. Theta Wang nodded in realization. That's right. The hundreds of thousands of sea folk in the Soul-Sealing Valley have to be left for last to give Neptune a surprise. Qin Feiyang smiled. This is a surprise? I'm afraid it's a shock. Theta Wang smiled bitterly. He could already imagine how wonderful it would be when Neptune saw the scene of hundreds of thousands of core members being stripped of their ultimate meaning. Although he is imprisoned by the rule force, you still have to be careful. You must keep an eye on him. Qin Feiyang looked at the two and reminded them. No problem. The two nodded. However, Pai Lupi rolled his eyes and asked, then, can we ask them to take out all their heaven-defying divine artifacts, divine arts and Qiankuan rings? Qin Feiyang was slightly taken aback and teased, with your current status in the Black Tortoise world, would you still be interested in these things? Look at what you're saying. No matter how small a mosquito's leg is, it's still meat. Let's talk about it later. Don't we still have a large group of people under us? If we don't need it, we can give it to them. Pai Lupi smiled. Yes. Qin Feiyang slapped his head. He had forgotten about this matter. Although the two had been helping him all these years, the two still had a force in the Black Tortoise world and had many capable subordinates under them. You see, Pai Lupi looked at Qin Feiyang expectantly. Up to you. But I have to warn you. Just because I'm supporting you, Your subordinates can act unscrupulously in the black tortoise world and bully others. If such a thing really happens, then don't blame me for not giving you any face, Qin Feiyang said. Don't worry about that. We will definitely restrain them. If it really happens, you don't need to say anything. We will bring our own heads to see you. The two vowed solemnly. That's good. Qin Feiyang nodded. He was just reminding the two of them. After all, no matter who it was, as time passed, ambition and desire would increase. Pai Lupi and Theta Wang were cultivated by him. He trusted the two of them very much. Therefore, he did not want to end their lives with his own hands one day in the future, because for him, this was a very painful thing. After Qin Feiyang and the other two left, Pai Lupi and Theta Wang looked at each other and immediately stepped in front of the barrier. Who are you? Looking at these unfamiliar faces, the millions of sea folk were immediately shocked. We, the two looked at each other and said proudly, Of course, we are the subordinates of the Lord Ruler. Lord Ruler? The millions of sea folk were stunned. That's right. The place you are in now is the Lord Ruler's black tortoise world. As for our Lord Ruler, you should not be unfamiliar with him. He is the Qin Feiyang you are afraid of. Pai Lupi smiled eerily. Qin Feiyang, Lord Ruler. The hearts of the sea folk were in a perilous situation. There had long been rumors that Qin Feiyang had an independent world. They thought it was just a rumor, but they did not expect it to be true. I beg the two of you to help. Please tell Qin Feiyang to let us go. We are just pawns of the sea folk. We have no value at all. After regaining their senses and suppressing the shock in their hearts, the group of sea folk looked at the two of them and begged. We don't agree with this. Pawns also have their own value. Pai Lupi sneered. They were once pawns, but now? Who dared to look down on them? Devil's Land. Outside for a long time. More than 2,000 years had passed in the black tortoise world. Xiao Shui and the other two had already calculated. At this time, tea garden, Qin Feiyang sat in front of the stone table, brewing tea while looking forward. Not long later, Xiao Shui walked over quickly, her face rosy and her spirit hale and hearty. She seemed to be in a good state. Quickly speak, quickly speak. White-eyed Wolf held a jug of divine wine and looked at Xiao Shui impatiently. Then you guys should be mentally prepared. Xiao Shui sat opposite the three of them and smiled while taking out an account book. At the same time, Qin Feiyang poured a cup of tea and pushed it in front of Xiao Shui. Thank you. Xiao Shui thanked him and picked up the teacup. She lowered her head and sipped the tea while carefully looking at the account book. After a while, she closed the account book and memorized everything. She raised her head and looked at Qin Feiyang and the other two. She smiled and asked, Are you ready? Speak. What kind of storm have we not seen before? White-eyed Wolf waved his hand and glared at her with dissatisfaction. Chapter 4161. Xiao Shui smiled slightly and looked at the three of them. There are a total of 300,000 ultimate profundities of ordinary laws. Among them, there are more than 11,000 ultimate profundities of thunder law and more than 12,000 ultimate profundities of light law. More than 300,000 profundities. Qin Feiyang and the other two looked at each other. While listening to Xiao Shui's report, they were extremely excited. More than 300,000 ultimate profundities of ordinary laws. Who would dare to imagine? They had never seen so many. In this way, on average, two people would have one ultimate profundity of ordinary laws. Just think about it. In the sky cloud realm, not to mention the strongest laws, only the dragons, the foam people, the Kirin clan, the land of buried gods, and the reclusive old antiques of the sky cloud sea had mastered ordinary laws. It could be said that in total there were no more than 100. But now just one sea clan know. Just 2/3 of the sea clan on the sea god's island had more than 300,000 ultimate profundities of ordinary laws. This was not on the same level at all. The sea god's island was indeed worthy of being the sacred land of the Sea Clan. The quality was astonishing. As for the ultimate profundities of the strongest laws, Xiao Shui took a sip of tea, and under the expectant gaze of the three, she smiled and said, "There are a total of 53,211 profundities." What? Qin Feiyang and the other two suddenly stood up. More than 53,000 profundities. This number was almost twice as much as they expected, because they originally estimated that there would be at most 20,000 to 30,000 ultimate profundities of the strongest laws. In the entire Devil's Land, there were only about 6,000 people. In other words, just close to 30,000 ultimate profundities of the strongest laws would be enough for everyone to master the will of the heavenly Tao. And now this was more than enough. "This is too shocking," Qin Feiyang murmured, his heart unable to calm down for a long time. He really had to be mentally prepared. Otherwise, if he was not careful, his blood vessels might swell and he might die from excitement. Actually, thinking about it, there is nothing to be surprised about, because these hundreds of thousands of Sea Clan members are the core members of the Sea Clan. Many of them have mastered 3 to 4 ultimate profundities of the strongest laws. Some prodigies have also mastered 1 or 2 ultimate profundities of the strongest laws, especially those in the middle. For example, the enforcers of the 3 major races and the various sovereign beasts of the beast race. These middle-level characters basically have 1 or 2 ultimate profundities of ultimate laws. So, in that case, we'll only need around 20,000 Sea Clan members to gather 50,000 ultimate mysteries of ultimate laws. Long Qin explained. That makes sense. Thinking back when the human race, god race, and purple gold divine dragon race surrounded us, there were at least 50 to 60,000 experts with ultimate profundities of ultimate laws. This might not be all of the 3 great races. They should be holding back as well. If we include all of them, I estimate that there are at least 70 to 80,000 ultimate law experts from the 3 major races. Even the 3 major races have so many, not to mention the Sea Tribe, the trusted followers of the Divine Kingdom's ruler. The white-eyed wolf nodded. The biggest reason is the Sea God's Island. The Sea God's Island is the sacred land of the Sea Tribe. Most of the Sea Tribe's experts are here. Even now, 1/3 of the Sea Tribe's experts are still on the Sea God's Island. For the entire Sea Tribe, this is a great loss. Xiao Shui smiled faintly. It's all because of that bastard, the Dragon God, who likes to meddle in other people's business. If it weren't for him, who would be able to escape from our evil clutches? The white-eyed wolf snorted coldly. Be content. With so many ultimate profundities, it's enough for you to cultivate an army of death gods that will make people tremble in fear. Long Qin looked at him with disdain. This was what it meant to be insatiable. He, who would complain about having too many of these. Would you? The white-eyed wolf bared his teeth. I'm not as greedy as you. Long Qin pouted. That's true, because you're not the same kind of person as us. You don't have the same sense of responsibility as us. Do you think that we're snatching these ultimate profundities for ourselves? No. We're doing this for the good of the Black Tortoise Realm and the Sky Cloud Realm. The white-eyed wolf waved his hand. When Long Qin heard this, he looked at the serious white-eyed wolf in surprise. Let's not talk about the Black Tortoise Realm first, because the beings of the Black Tortoise Realm don't need to face the Divine Kingdom head-on. As long as we're alive, they'll always be safe. But the Sky Cloud Realm is different. The beings of the Sky Cloud Realm will face the danger of the Divine Kingdom's invasion at any time. And you also know that there are only a handful of people in the Sky Cloud Realm who have mastered the ultimate profundities. With their strength, they simply can't fight against the Divine Kingdom. So, since we have this opportunity now, we naturally have to seek more benefits for the Sky Cloud realm. In other words, while we weaken the divine kingdom, we're also strengthening the Sky Cloud realm. This is killing two birds with one stone. Isn't it great? The white-eyed wolf chuckled. The corner of Longqin's mouth twitched, and he asked, "So now, you still plan to hunt down the Sea Clan and the Beast Clan and snatch their ultimate profundities?" "Of course. With such a big treasure in front of us, you want me to just watch? I can't do it." The white-eyed wolf bared his teeth. Treasure? Longqin's cheeks kept twitching. He actually regarded the Beast Clan and the Sea Clan as a big treasure. If the Sea Clan and the Beast Clan heard this, who knew what they would think? "Of course. The premise is that your brother has to continue to help us." The white-eyed wolf put on a flattering smile. Longqin rolled his eyes. Did he really treat her brother as a tool? "Actually, I won't let you work for free. In the future of the Sky Cloud realm, you siblings will definitely be recorded in the annals of history, and your names will be passed down through the ages." The white-eyed wolf bared his teeth. "Who cares?" Longqin disdainfully said. "Cut the crap. Give us the ultimate profound meaning we need first." "All right." The white-eyed wolf nodded and looked at Xiao Shui with a smile. "Give her whatever she wants." "Okay." Xiao Shui nodded. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "In that case, call the others over, including Mu Tianyang, Mu Qing, the demon ancestor, and the demon dragon beside the demon ancestor." "Demon dragon?" The white-eyed wolf was slightly taken aback and frowned. "If you didn't mention it now, I would have already forgotten about this guy's existence." In all these years in the Black Tortoise realm, there was no trace of the demon dragon. Presumably, it must be hiding in the demon ancestor's spatial divine object and cultivating in a low profile. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang patted his head and looked at the white-eyed wolf. "There seems to be two more people. Who?" The white-eyed wolf was suspicious. "Zhang Xiaoyang and Guo Sueki," Qin Feiyang said. "Zhang Xiaoyang?" The white-eyed wolf was taken aback. He still remembered Guo Sueki. This was an interesting incident. Back then, she pretended to be Qin Feiyang's fiancée and caused quite a stir. Later, Guo Sueki had been following Mu Tianyang and hiding in Mu Tianyang's spatial divine object. But this Zhang Xiaoyang, he really did not have any impression of him. Zhang Xiaoyang is someone I met when Hui and I went to Dongling to look for the demon ancestor and Dong Jinyang. He has a good relationship with the demon ancestor, and at that time he even fought side by side with us. Later, when we entered Divine Prefecture, the demon ancestor also kept him by his side. But all these years I haven't seen him appear. He should have been in the demon ancestor's spatial divine object. Qin Feiyang said as he recalled. Back then, when he entered Dongling to look for the demon ancestor and Dong Jinyang, many interesting things happened. Miss Tianxian, he got to know her at that time. The most famous Tianxian wine of the Heaven Immortal Tower was a top-grade wine that the white-eyed wolf, Hui, Frenzy, and the five-clawed golden dragon coveted. The white-eyed wolf said, "So, there are still many people hiding in our devil's land." "What do you mean?" Qin Feiyang was puzzled. Since Guo Sueki and Zhang Xiaoyang are hiding in the spatial divine objects of the demon ancestor and Mu Tianyang, then we can't rule out that there are others in their spatial divine objects. The white-eyed wolf chuckled. This, Qin Feiyang did not dare to make an assertion. He waved his hand and said, "No matter how many people are hiding around them, it doesn't matter to us now." "That's true. What Guo Sueki? What Emo Long? I can kill them in a second." The white-eyed wolf smiled proudly. "Look at how cocky you are." At this moment, Longqin had already obtained the ultimate profound from Xiao Shui and directly cast a look of disdain at the white-eyed wolf. When men talk, women move to the side. The white-eyed wolf's face darkened. "I can't be bothered to talk nonsense with you." Longqin smiled in disdain and immediately stood up to leave. "Where are you going?" The white-eyed wolf looked at her suspiciously. Of course, I'm going to look for Big Brother, and also go into seclusion to fuse the ultimate profound. If there's nothing, don't bother me. After saying that, Long Chin left without turning back. The white-eyed wolf waved his hand and shouted, "Then take care. I won't send you off. Don't ever come out of seclusion." Long Chin paused and turned her head to glare at the white-eyed wolf. After Long Chin left, Xiao Shui looked at the white-eyed wolf with a strange expression. What? The white-eyed wolf touched his face. Was there something on his face? Brother Wolf, there's something wrong with you. Xiao Shui smiled meaningfully. Something's wrong? The white-eyed wolf was stunned. What's going on? Xiao Shui said, Your current relationship with Long Chin is a little more than an ordinary friendship. Tell me honestly, have you already developed feelings for her? What the hell? The white-eyed wolf immediately jumped up and said angrily, Your imagination is too rich. Is that really the case? Then why did you subconsciously ask where she was going when she left earlier? That's an instinctive reaction. It means that you're now very concerned about her every move. In other words, you're concerned about her. It's just that you haven't noticed it yourself. Xiao Shui smiled slightly. When Qin Feiyang heard this, he couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. He didn't notice it before, but after hearing Xiao Shui's words, it seemed to be the case. Although the two of them often bickered from the white-eyed wolf's reaction, he did show some concern for Long Chin. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and looked at the white-eyed wolf. Since we're talking about this problem now, I'll have a good talk with you. Talk about what? The white-eyed wolf frowned. About you and Long Chin. You know my character. I'm very loyal when it comes to relationships. But I'm me and you're you. I won't interfere with your love life, and I won't force you to be like me. However, there are some things that you have to deal with. You already have Fire Dance now. You can't do anything that will make her sad. Qin Feiyang said, The remaining 2 chapters will be released before 11 o'clock. Chapter 4162. Why are you the same as Xiao Shui? Why would Brother take a fancy to her? Sister Feng is the only one in Brother's heart. The white-eyed wolf looked at Qin Feiyang speechlessly. Brother Wolf. As the saying goes, the onlookers see more clearly than the players involved. All of us have seen it with our own eyes. Of course, if you and Long Chin really want to develop your relationship, we definitely won't object to it. But first, you have to get Fire Dance's consent. Xiao Shui chuckled. You're getting more and more ridiculous. The white-eyed wolf got up and glared at Qin Feiyang and Xiao Shui. I can't be bothered to listen to your nonsense. Hurry up and give me the ultimate profound meaning. I'm going into seclusion. What's the hurry? I'm not done yet. If you don't like Long Chin, you'd better keep a distance from her in the future and not provoke her. Although it's free love now, I'm more against it from the bottom of my heart. Besides, Longzuin and Ice Dragon will definitely not agree. Qin Feiyang shook his head. All right. I'll keep a distance from her in the future, lest you let your imagination run wild. The white-eyed wolf rubbed his forehead, looking speechless. Him and Long Chin? How could that be possible? All right. You're an adult, not a child. You have to know your limits. Qin Feiyang shook his head and shouted. Everyone gather at the tea garden. Whoosh! After a while, many figures broke through the air and arrived. Everyone's face was filled with anticipation. This was because they knew that they were going to be given the ultimate profound meaning. However, he did not see Mu Tianyang, Mu Qing, and the demon ancestor. What's going on? Do we have to invite them personally? The white-eyed wolf was dissatisfied. They must think that they won't get a share. Therefore, they can't be bothered to join in the fun. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. He looked at Xiao Shui and said, Give me 10 of each ultimate, profound meaning. Okay, Xiao Shui nodded. There were 10 of each type, so there were a few hundred of them in total. Qin Feiyang left the tea garden and walked towards the 2 courtyards after obtaining these hundreds of ultimate, profound meanings. These 2 courtyards were the residences of the ancestral fiend trio. Mu Tianyang and Mu Qing lived together. The fiend ancestor lived alone. Are you there? Qin Feiyang stood in front of the Demon Alpha's courtyard. He looked at the closed door and smiled. A short while later, Fiend Ancestor opened the door and walked out suspiciously. Qin Feiyang entered the courtyard and looked at the courtyard next to it. He smiled and said, Mu Tianyang, Mu Qin, you 2 come out as well. What do you mean? The 2 of them walked out of the pavilion with a suspicious look on their faces. Qin Feiyang asked, Don't you care about what's happening in the tea garden? I thought it was something else. Mu Tianyang was speechless. He turned around and prepared to enter the loft. Wasn't this wasting his precious time? Wait. Qin Feiyang hurriedly stopped Mu Tianyang and said unhappily, I've personally delivered the ultimate profound meanings to you, and you still have this attitude. What? Mu Tianyang was stunned. He turned his head and looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. Qin Feiyang waved his hand. The hundreds of ultimate profound meanings that Xiao Shui gave him immediately appeared. He looked at the 3 of them and said, Pick whatever you want. The 3 of them looked at each other. Didn't he not count them? Originally, I didn't plan to give them to you, but there's no other way. I've obtained too many ultimate, profound meanings this time. I thought about it a little. Anyway, it's a waste to keep them, so I might as well give them to you. Qin Feiyang chuckled. The 3 of them looked at Qin Feiyang in shock. Don't look at me like that. I'm a good person. Qin Feiyang bared his teeth. Hearing this, the 3 of them rolled their eyes. However, they were all smart people. Qin Feiyang's words were obviously teasing them. In other words, in fact, Qin Feiyang did count them in. It was just that at that time in the Soul Sealing Valley he deliberately teased them. But they didn't know. At that time in the Soul Sealing Valley he wasn't teasing them. He was testing them. Of course. Regarding this test, since the 3 of them didn't notice, Qin Feiyang didn't want to expose it. After all, some things were not good to expose. Thank you. This time Mu Tianyang and Mu Qing were all smiles. Moreover, they didn't know what was polite at all. They ran over and began to look for the ultimate profound meanings that they needed. Demon Ancestor glanced at the 2 of them, then looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, What about Dong Zhengyang? Qin Feiyang smiled and said, Anyway, I have extra now. I don't need 9th Master Ji's help. I'll send it to Dong Zhengyang later. That's good too. Even if 9th Master Ji and the others have an inheritance, it will definitely be limited. Save as much as you can. Demon Ancestor nodded. Yes. Hurry up and pick one too. There's also Emolong's share. As for Zhang Xiaoyang and Guosweki, they don't need to master all the ultimate profound meanings. You guys can pick 6 ultimate profound meanings for them. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. As soon as these words came out, the 3 of them couldn't help but be stunned. Demon Ancestor came back to his senses and asked, You mean Emolong can also fuse all the ultimate profound meanings? Yes. After all, it's a partner that has gone through life and death with you. I believe that you also want to see it become stronger so that you can fight side by side with it in the future. Qin Feiyang nodded and smiled. Although it had been a long time since he saw Emolong, it wasn't hard to imagine that Emolong's current strength was definitely not that great. Looking at Demon Ancestor's current strength, it was getting stronger and stronger. In such a situation, not to mention fighting side by side in the future, he probably wasn't even qualified to be cannon fodder. When Demon Ancestor heard this, he took a deep breath and bowed. Thank you. It's fine. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and then said, As for Zhang Xiaoyang and Guosweki, I gave them the ultimate profound meanings and let them master heavens will because I trust you guys. The meaning of these words was obvious. Giving them the ultimate profound meanings was to give them face. At the same time, I trust that you guys can restrain them well. Don't worry. Zhang Xiaoyang is quite a good person. Demon Ancestor chuckled, then looked at Mu Tianyang and said, However, this Guasweki. Mu Tianyang stared at Demon Ancestor, then looked at Qin Feiyang and said with a bitter smile, Guasweki does hate you, but now she feels more powerless in her heart. After all, your current strength is too strong. As for this woman, Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment and smiled. I just want to say that I can create her now, and I can also destroy her in the future. Haha, Mu Tianyang laughed. Domineering enough. However, no one dared to doubt his words. At the same time, in Mu Tianyang's spatial divine item, Guasweki was sitting in a cultivation room. When she heard Qin Feiyang's words, there was a trace of fear that couldn't be removed. Although Qin Feiyang didn't know about her situation, she knew about Qin Feiyang's situation like the back of her hand. Looking at Qin Feiyang getting scarier by the day, to be honest, she had already given up on the idea of revenge. It wasn't that she wanted to give up, but she no longer had the courage to take revenge. In the courtyard, when Demon Ancestor and the other two found the ultimate profound they needed, Qin Feiyang didn't continue to stay. He kept the remaining ultimate profound and left the black tortoise world. He opened a space-time tunnel and quietly landed in front of the village. There was no one in the village. Were they still on the Sea God's island? Just as he was about to step into the village, a barrier appeared and stopped him outside. Qin Feiyang smiled helplessly. He couldn't forcefully break the barrier, right? He then turned around and prepared to leave. However, at this moment, a young man pushed open the door and walked out. Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned. He raised his head and looked. Who else could it be but Dong Jingyang? He asked. You didn't follow Master Jiao and the others? No. Before leaving, they told me to stay in the secret room in the village to cultivate in seclusion. Dong Jingyang smiled. With a wave of his hand, a crack opened in the barrier. Qin Feiyang walked in and said with a smile, How does it feel to be here alone? Isn't it the same anywhere? Dong Jingyang shook his head and smiled. He asked, Are you here to look for Master Jiao and the others? No, I'm here to look for you. Qin Feiyang took out the ultimate profound and said with a smile, Pick whatever you want. So many? Dong Jingyang was stunned. Are there many? Let me tell you, there are more in the black tortoise world now. Qin Feiyang chuckled. So Long Qin has agreed to help you? Dong Jingyang asked. Qin Feiyang nodded. It's not easy. However, it also shows that this Long Qin is indeed not bad. You have to cherish this friend, Dong Jingyang reminded. I know. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. As long as Long Qin didn't fall out with him, he would never fall out with him. Then I won't stand on ceremony. Dong Jingyang smiled and glanced at the ultimate profound in front of him. In the end, he took away the 5 ultimate profound laws. 5. Qin Feiyang was stunned. Master Jiao and the others have already given me the inheritance of the ultimate profound laws of space-time. Dong Jingyang said. I see. Qin Feiyang nodded in realization. This group of elders was indeed generous. Next, he found the ultimate profound laws of various ordinary laws, as well as the ultimate profound laws of nothingness and the ultimate profound laws of devour, and gave them to Dong Jingyang. Why are you giving me so many? As long as you can master the will of heaven. Dong Jingyang was stunned. It's fine. Anyway, I have more than enough now. Qin Feiyang smiled. Dong Jingyang looked at him speechlessly and said, Why do you look like a nouveau riche? It's also glorious to be a nouveau riche. Qin Feiyang chuckled and couldn't help but glance at the back of the mountain. Stop. Seeing this, Dong Jingyang hurriedly turned Qin Feiyang's head and said, "You must not be tempted by the tea garden at the back of the mountain, or Master Jiao will really fight you to the death." Cough, cough. Qin Feiyang coughed dryly and said with a smile, "It's because Long Qin has helped us so much, so I want to use this opportunity to thank him properly." "Don't you have divine tea now? If you want to thank him, just give him a few." Dong Jingyang rolled his eyes. "How can I bear to? There are only a few dozen in total. Compared to Master Jiao's tea garden, it's not worth mentioning." Qin Feiyang shook his head. Dong Jingyang was speechless. These people really treated tea as their life. Chapter 4163. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes and asked, "You've been with Lord Nine for so long. Do you know what hobbies he has?" "Hobbies?" Dong Jingyang lowered his head and pondered for a while. Then he shook his head and said, "Other than playing chess and drinking tea, he doesn't have any other hobbies." "That's true. He's already so old. What other hobbies can he have?" Qin Feiyang nodded. "Don't think so much. No matter how you cater to his interests, he won't give you the tea trees. If you really want it, then do it openly. If he doesn't give it to you, then pester him. Because after this period of time, I found that although Lord Nine looks strong on the surface, he's actually quite soft-hearted." Dong Jingyang smiled. "Pester him." Qin Feiyang murmured and nodded with a smile. "Okay, I'll give it a try when Lord Nine comes back." "You're not going to leave?" Dong Jingyang was stunned. "Why should I leave? Where else is safer than here?" "I'll go to the tea garden first." Qin Feiyang chuckled mischievously and ran towards the back of the mountain like a wisp of smoke. "Don't mess around." Dong Zhenyang hurriedly put away his ultimate meaning and followed him worriedly. The barrier not only covered the village, but also the tea garden. Therefore, there was no independent barrier at the peak of the back mountain. The two entered the tea garden. Every time he thought of the tea trees here, he couldn't help but drool, let alone standing in the tea garden now. His impulsive little hands were somewhat uncontrollable. Dong Jingyan kept staring at him vigilantly. Lord Nine asked him to stay in the village for 2 reasons. First, to cultivate diligently. Second, to take care of the village. If Qin Feiyang couldn't help but take away a few tea trees now, Lord Nine would definitely settle the score with him when he came back. He couldn't afford to take the blame. "How long has it been? You're already siding with outsiders." Qin Feiyang looked at Dong Zhenyang speechlessly, guarding against him as if he was a thief. "Cut it out." Dong Zhenyang rolled his eyes at him. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes. With a thought, a young man in white appeared beside him. It was Long Qin. "I'll go." Long Qin was a little confused at first, but when he saw the tea trees around him, his eyes lit up. Dong Zhenyang's eyelids twitched. He was ready to stop these 2 bandits at any time. "Brother Long, how is it?" Qin Feiyang chuckled. "Unheard of!" Long Chan exclaimed in surprise. He quickly noticed the 4 divine Bodhi trees and slowly walked over. He stretched out his hand and gently stroked a Bodhi leaf. His eyes were filled with infatuation. "Long Chen, I'm warning you. Don't act recklessly." Dong Jingyan said, "Ah." Long Qin was stunned. He turned to look at Dong Jingyan and asked, "You're here too?" Dong Jingyang's expression froze. Could it be that before this he had always been heir? Sorry, I didn't notice you before." Long Qin laughed dryly. "All right." Dong Jingyang was helpless. Was his presence so insignificant? He couldn't even compare to a few tea trees? Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "Brother Long, why don't we cultivate in seclusion here?" Long Qin was stunned and asked, "Can we?" "Of course. As long as we don't act recklessly, will Lord Nine chase us away?" Qin Feiyang nodded. Long Qin was stunned and said, "From what you said, you're planning to stay here and not leave. Isn't this all for you? As the saying goes, where sincerity reaches, even metal and stone will split." As long as we persevere, Lord Nine will definitely be moved by us. Qin Feiyang chuckled. I think it's the spirit of shamelessness, Dong Zhenyang suddenly said. Qin Feiyang twitched the corner of his mouth and said with a dark face, Are we still brothers? I'm on the side of reason, not kinship. Dong Zhenyang pursed his lips. Long Chen's gaze swept over the tea garden. Very seriously, very solemnly he nodded. Brother Qin's words are correct. Sincerity can move metal and stone. We have to use sincerity and perseverance to move Lord Jiu. It's over. Another one who has gone mad. Dong Zhenyang looked at the sky speechlessly. Was this divine tea really that attractive? During the time he was in the village, he saw these tea trees almost every day, but he didn't think it was that attractive. Then let's go. We'll cultivate in seclusion there, Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Next to the tea garden, there was a small wooden house with 2 floors. It was very simple and plain. This was where Lord Nine usually lived. The 3 of them walked to the front of the wooden house. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and set up a 5,000 years a day time array. It merged with the ground and immediately enveloped the entire wooden house. The 2 of them didn't know how to be polite. They ran to the 2nd floor and stood on the balcony, looking at the tea garden in front of them. It really felt like they were sitting on the world's most precious treasure. Dong Zhenyang followed with a speechless face. All right, there's something I have to report to you. Long Qin suddenly turned to look at Qin Feiyang and said with a smile. Report? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Yes. Previously in the Black Tortoise world, I asked little Qin to ask Xiao Shui for some ultimate profoundness. Long Qin smiled. Didn't I give you enough? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Yes. Long Qin nodded. Then why do you still want it? Don't tell me there are other people hiding around you. Qin Feiyang looked at him suspiciously. How can that be? Back then, the white-eyed wolf personally went to my space divine item to check. Other than some medicinal herbs and tea trees, there was nothing else. Long Qin said with a smile. Qin Feiyang looked at Long Qin for a moment, shook his head and said with a smile, If you want it, would I dare to say no? He did not ask further. Although their relationship was very good now, it was better not to get to the bottom of some things. You're quite smart. Otherwise, it will be a little difficult to ask for my help in the future. Long Qin laughed. Qin Feiyang shook his head and could not help but laugh. Hence, the 2 of them sat cross-legged on the balcony and began to comprehend the laws. Seeing this, Dong Zhenyang also accompanied the 2 of them. After a while, Xiao Shui's voice rang in Qin Feiyang's mind. The ultimate profoundness has been distributed, and there are still many left. How should we deal with it? Leave it to Fire Lotus. Let her keep it for now. Qin Feiyang thought for a moment and transmitted his voice. Okay, there's one more thing. Long Qin came to me again and asked for a lot of ultimate profoundness. There are about 300 of them. Xiao Shui said again, I know about this. It's Long Chen's idea. Long Qin has already told me. Qin Feiyang responded in secret. That's good. If there's nothing else, I'll go into seclusion. Xiao Shui said. Okay. Qin Feiyang replied and suddenly asked in secret, Wait a minute. Are there any laws of light and darkness among the ultimate profoundness? Yes, but not many. Only 5, Xiao Shui replied. So few? Qin Feiyang was stunned. After all, the laws of light and darkness require the fusion of the laws of light and darkness. It's not easy, Xiao Shui said. It's not difficult to even master the laws of light and darkness. No wonder no one in the divine kingdom can comprehend the laws of life and death. How about this? Give me 2 of the laws of light and darkness. The remaining 3 will be given to Long Qin, White-Eyed Wolf, and Senior Brother Fengzi. Qin Feiyang said. Okay. Xiao Shui nodded. Very soon. Two clusters of intertwined black and white flames appeared in front of Qin Feiyang. The black side was like a bottomless black hole. The white side was like the wings of an angel, exuding a sacred aura. Long Qin and Dong Zhenyang opened their eyes and said in surprise, "The laws of light and darkness." "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded and looked at Long Chen with a smile. "We'll each take one. As for Brother Dong, I'm sorry. If I have the chance to meet you in the future, I'll give it to you." "Look at what you're saying. I'm already very satisfied to be able to master the will of heaven." Dong Zhenyang waved his hand and smiled. Hundreds of thousands of Sea Clan people were captured by Qin Feiyang, White-Eyed Wolf, and Long Qin. The ultimate profound was stripped by Long Qin with the soul control technique. He was just sitting back and enjoying the fruits of others' labor. If he wasn't satisfied with this, then he really had no conscience. And Qin Feiyang now only lacked the laws of light and darkness, the law of nothingness, and the law of devour. As long as he mastered these three supreme laws, as well as other ordinary laws, then he would have all the laws. Moreover, compared to Long Chen, Long Qin, Feng Zi, and White-Eyed Wolf, he had one more law, and that was the law of life and death. In other words, no matter what, as long as no one comprehended the law of life and death, then he was still the strongest. Time flew by. Half a month passed outside. In the early morning of this day, Qin Feiyang, who was in seclusion, suddenly opened his eyes and looked at the rising sun in the east. His eyes were full of surprise, because at this moment he suddenly felt an inexplicable throbbing. "What's wrong?" Dong Zhenyang and Long Qin noticed Qin Feiyang's emotional fluctuations and opened their eyes one after another, looking at him suspiciously. "Strange." Qin Feiyang shook his head. The throbbing in his heart became more and more intense. This feeling was very familiar to him, but it also seemed very strange. "Wait a minute." Suddenly, his gaze trembled, and he suddenly got up, his eyes flashing with dazzling brilliance. "What's wrong with you?" Long Qin and Dong Zhenyang were a little frightened. "It's him, that's right. In this world, only he can give me this feeling," Qin Feiyang suddenly roared, hugging Dong Zhenyang and Long Chen in wild joy. The two looked at each other. What was going on? Why did Qin Feiyang, who had always been calm and collected, become like a child? Him. Who was this him? "That's right, it must be him. He really didn't die." Qin Feiyang let go of the two, completely unaware of his gaffe, and once again looked to the east, his hands tightly clenched together. "Didn't die?" The two were stunned. Suddenly, Long Qin looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, "Are you talking about the inner demons?" Inner demons. Dong Zhenyang's gaze also trembled and immediately looked at Qin Feiyang. Of course, he was no stranger to the inner demons. In the past, in Great Qin and the Forgotten Continent, the terrifying means of the inner demons were the nightmare of countless creatures. If it wasn't for the fact that in order to save Qin Feiyang, he entered the miracle alone to search for the ice dragon, the inner demons' current strength might be even more terrifying than Qin Feiyang. And now, looking at Qin Feiyang's surprised look, could it be that he had sensed the aura of the inner demons? Because between the original body and the inner demons, they could feel each other's existence. Chapter 4164. The inner demons are not dead. That's really good news. Long Qin smiled from the bottom of his heart. Because the inner demons were not dead, Lu Jiejin was not dead either. As long as the two of them were not dead, there was hope for the grudge between Qin Feiyang and his father to be resolved. All these years in the Devil's Land, although he had been in seclusion and didn't have much contact with everyone, he could feel the harmonious atmosphere. There was no struggle, no ambition, unity and harmony. Moreover, whether it was a human or a ferocious beast, all of them were sentimental and righteous. In such a place, no matter who it was, as long as they slowly got along with each other, it would be difficult for them to give up. And such a group of people, he couldn't bear to hurt them. There was only one way to not hurt them: reconciliation. So at this moment, knowing that the inner demons were still alive. The joy in his heart was no less than Qin Feiyang's. This was sincere from the bottom of his heart. It's indeed good news. But why is he in the divine kingdom? Dong Jingyang asked. Qin Feiyang calmed down and looked at Dong Jingyang. You have to ask Brother Long's father. That year, the disappearance of the inner demons was related to Ice Dragon. The inner demons were now in the divine kingdom, which must be related to Ice Dragon. Dong Jingyang looked at Long Qin. Don't look at me. I don't know anything. Long Qin smiled bitterly. Your son is a bit of a failure. Dong Jingyang smiled mockingly. You can laugh all you want. Long Qin shook his head helplessly, pondered for a while, and frowned. But there is one point that I don't understand. Dong Jingyang asked. What you want to say is, why didn't Qin Feiyang sense the existence of the inner demons when he was in the divine kingdom? That's right. We've been in the divine kingdom for so long. If the inner demons were already in the divine kingdom, Brother Qin should have sensed the existence of the inner demons the moment he entered the divine kingdom. But why did I only sense it now? Long Qin frowned. Maybe he's in seclusion somewhere, Dong Jingyang guessed. Even if they are in seclusion somewhere, it shouldn't affect their ability to sense each other. Long Chen's eyes flickered. He looked to the east and murmured, Neptune must have returned from the Central Dynasty. The east was where the East Continent was located. What do you mean? Dong Jingyang and Qin Feiyang were stunned. What does Neptune's return from the Central Dynasty have to do with the appearance of the inner demons? But in the next moment, their gazes trembled. Could it be that the inner demons used to be in the Central Dynasty? That's impossible. The Central Dynasty was a place where even the monarch, the divine king, and the supremes of the human race couldn't enter freely. How could the inner demons be in the Central Dynasty? Can you sense the exact location of the inner demons? Long Qin looked at Qin Feiyang and asked. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded and closed his eyes again. About 10 breaths later, suddenly, he opened his eyes and said, The Sea God's Island. The Sea God's Island? Long Qin and Dong Jingyang looked at each other. At the same time, the Sea God's Island. The Sea God's Island was currently overcrowded. In the sky, Ninth Master Ji and a group of elders sat cross-legged in the void, exuding a murderous aura. Their existence was akin to that of gods. As long as they saw them, they would feel at ease and safe. During this period of time, the Oceanids were grateful to these elders. As for the dragon god, the monarch, and the other experts of the 3 races, they had all left. Because these 15 elders were enough to deter everyone. Suddenly, a space-time passage appeared. The 15 elders immediately opened their eyes and looked at the space-time passage. It's these kids again? But in the next moment, a glint flashed across their eyes, because they had already sensed the aura of the newcomer. One of the aura was Neptune. In other words, Neptune had returned from the Central Dynasty. They were really looking forward to seeing who would come with Neptune to the East Continent. The senior members of the Oceanids and the island owners also sensed Neptune's aura. They all rose into the sky and welcomed Neptune with excitement. Finally, under everyone's gaze, a middle-aged man walked out of the space-time passage. It was Neptune. When Neptune appeared, he was stunned when he saw the senior members of the Oceanids and the island owner, Haiyunchuan. What was going on? Why were the island owners on the Sea God's Island? Soon, when he saw Ninth Master Ji and the others, his body suddenly stiffened. Why were these elders on the Sea God's Island? Were they here to welcome the people from the Central Dynasty? But there was no news in advance. Would the Central Dynasty send people to the East Continent with him? Lord Neptune, Haiyunchuan was about to speak. What's the matter? Let's talk later. Neptune waved his hand and turned to look at the space-time passage with a respectful expression. Seeing this, Everyone looked at the space-time passage. Ninth Master G and the other elders looked at each other curiously. Whoosh! Immediately, an old man with white hair walked out of the passage. The old man was stooped and his face was old. He held a white dragon-head walking stick in his hand and wore a white robe. He looked very weak, and his eyes were cloudy as if he had one foot in the coffin. This was a very inconspicuous old man. Even behind him, there was no sense of danger. But it was this old man that made the Sea King extremely respectful. After the old man with white hair came out, a group of young men and women walked out of the passage one after another. There were a total of 10 people. The man had a dignified appearance and was extraordinarily handsome. The woman was tall and slender and had a heavenly beauty. Anyway, each of them had an extraordinary temperament. They were like cranes in a flock of chickens. It's them. Ninth Master G and the other elders looked at 2 of them and narrowed their eyes slightly. These 2 people were tall and straight. One had black hair like a waterfall and an ethereal temperament. The other had bloody hair and a bloody aura all over his body. But they were wearing masks on their faces, and their faces couldn't be seen clearly. Only their eyes could be seen. The black-haired youth's eyes were like 2 dark black holes, frightening people's souls. The eyes of the red-haired youth were like condensed blood. One could even vaguely see an endless sea of blood and millions of corpses in his eyes. The East Continent were back again. The 2 young men looked at each other with a trace of a smile in their eyes. But the other 8 young men and women had a trace of curiosity between their eyebrows. At the same time, they looked at the Sea Clan in front of them with a natural arrogance. It was as if these Sea Clan members were ants in their eyes. Greetings, lords. Under Neptune's instructions, Hai Yunchuan and the others bowed and saluted. Rise. The white-haired old man smiled hoarsely and glanced at the Sea Clan members. Finally, his eyes fell on Ninth Master G and the others. He smiled and said, Old friend, long time no see. How are you? I was wondering who it was. So it's you, old man. Ninth Master G smiled. The white-haired old man said, It's been almost 1,000,000 years since we last met. I didn't expect you to still remember this old man. How can we forget you? Ninth Master G smiled, but there was a trace of murderous intent under his smile, and he didn't hide his murderous intent. The white-haired old man and the other 10 young men and women could clearly sense it. But to this, the group of people didn't take it seriously. But the other Sea Clan members were a bit confused. Did Ninth Master G have a grudge against this lord of the Central Dynasty? Where are the sea gods? Why didn't they come to welcome the lord of the Central Dynasty? Neptune glanced at the people in front of him and couldn't help but frown. Hearing this, Hai Yunchuan and the others' eyes dimmed and their faces were filled with anger. What's going on? Neptune also had a bad feeling in his heart. Since Neptune is back, then we'll take our leave. Ninth Master G said and opened a tunnel. Thank you. Goodbye, seniors. The senior members of the Sea Clan bowed and sent them off. The more Neptune looked at them, the more confused he became. After the seniors left, Neptune immediately looked at the senior members and frowned. What's going on? Why are they on the Sea Gods' Island? And why are there so many of them? Lord, please punish us. The senior members looked at each other and knelt in front of Neptune. Seeing this, the white-haired old man and the 10 young men also had a suspicious look. Speak. Looking at these people, Neptune felt even more uneasy. It's the dragon god and Qin Feiyang. Hai Yunchuan shouted angrily. What do you mean? Neptune frowned. Not long after you left, Qin Feiyang brought the golden-winged wolf king and Long Qin to the Sea Gods' Island. 2/3 of the people on the Sea Gods' Island were taken away by them. All 19 sea gods fell into their hands, and we don't know if they're still alive. Hearing this, Neptune's face turned pale. And then Qin Feiyang and the other two appeared on other islands and took away millions of our people. Lord Neptune, it's all our fault. We didn't protect our people. Please punish us. The senior members lowered their heads, and their faces were full of hatred for the dragon god and Qin Feiyang. Bastard! Neptune was furious. What does this have to do with the dragon god? Hai Yunchuan said angrily, the dragon god told Qin Feiyang that you were in the Central Dynasty. What? Neptune's face froze. That's impossible. How could the dragon god do such a thing? The white-haired old man couldn't believe it. But other than the dragon god, even the king, the divine king, and the human lord didn't know that Neptune was in the Central Dynasty. If it wasn't the dragon god, who else could it be? Hai Yunchuan looked at the white-haired old man and questioned. The white-haired old man frowned. He didn't expect that something like this would happen when Neptune was in the Central Dynasty. The dragon god, Neptune whispered. Lord, this time if it weren't for the human race, the god race, and the purple-gold divine dragon race, the oceanic race would have been wiped out. Someone sighed. The dragon god asked, so Boss G and the others were here to protect the sea god's island. Yes, they've been on the sea god's island all this time to protect us. Everyone nodded. 2 more. Release before 11 o'clock. Chapter 4165. So that's how it is. I knew these old guys wouldn't be so kind as to welcome us. The white-haired old man laughed with a hoarse voice. Neptune glanced at the white-haired old man, not in the mood to laugh at all. Sir, we didn't protect our clansmen well, but the dragon god betraying us is even more unforgivable. Sir, please kill the dragon god and avenge our clansmen. A group of higher-ups angrily roared. The countless sea folk on the island below were also filled with killing intent. Neptune was silent. Actually, he didn't believe that the dragon god would betray him. But in the current situation, the dragon god had already caused public anger. If he helped the dragon god at this time, his clansmen would also be dissatisfied with him. What exactly is going on here? Indeed, only the dragon god knew about his trip to the Central Dynasty. Wait a minute. Omniscient Eye. Could it be that Mu Qing used the Omniscient Eye to spy on his whereabouts? With that thought, Neptune looked at the white-haired old man and asked, You Lao, how about you rest on the sea god's island for a bit? All right. The white-haired old man nodded, then looked at the 10 young men and women behind him and laughed with a hoarse voice. It's rare for you to leave the Central Dynasty. Take this chance to take a stroll. All right. The 10 of them nodded. Hearing that, Neptune looked at the 10 of them and said, If that's the case, you can take the sea god's badge and go in and out of the cities. It'll be more convenient. Saying so, Neptune took out 10 golden badges. Each of them was the size of a baby's palm, with the word sea carved on the front and the picture of the sea god on the back. The 10 of them grabbed the badges and looked at them curiously, then left in groups of 2s and 3s, opening a space-time tunnel and leaving with curious expressions. However, just as the 2 masked young men were about to enter the space-time tunnel, the blood-robed young man suddenly looked up at the void of space in the distance. What's wrong? The black-haired young man was suspicious. Nothing. The blood-robed young man waved his hand and smiled, then entered the space-time tunnel without looking back. At the same time, in the distance above the ocean, the black tortoise world was hidden in the void. Qin Feiyang Longchen and Dong Zhenyang stood side by side as they looked at the sea god's island on the screen. To be exact, they were looking at the blood-red clothed youth and the black-clothed youth. That's right, it's them. Qin Feiyang was very excited. Although both of them were wearing masks, their auras were all too familiar. She would never forget it. It was the inner demons and big cousin. Dong Xingyang also recognized the two, and his face was full of joy. He had the eye of destiny, and he had always believed that the inner demons and Lu Jiajin couldn't possibly die. especially Lu Jiajin. The fate of the owner of the Eye of Nothingness had long been determined. He would be with everyone and face the future calamity together. The inner demons seemed to have sensed your existence. Longchen smiled. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded, because before they left, the inner demons glanced in their direction. You should be able to sense the inner demon's location now. Let's go and take a look. Let's find a chance to meet them. Dong Zhenyang said. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded. He and the inner demons could sense each other. Therefore, no matter where the inner demons went, he would be able to find them. On the Dragon God Mountain, Neptune headed straight for this place. You're finally back. The Dragon God, who was sitting alone in the pavilion, sensed Neptune's arrival and immediately stood up to welcome him. What's going on with you? You fell into the hands of this Qin Feiyang again. Neptune furrowed his eyebrows. How would I know? Now, I'm a spy in the eyes of the various races, especially the sea race. When they see me as an enemy. The Dragon God looked irritated. Don't worry. I believe you. Neptune consoled him. What's the use of you believing me? What I need is the trust of the various races. The Dragon God sighed. I'm afraid it's very difficult to make everyone believe me now, unless Qin Feiyang personally admits that this matter has nothing to do with you. But it's easier said than done to make him admit it personally. He's framed you time and time again. His goal is to sow discord between the various races. Actually, I've already guessed how he found out about me going to the Central Dynasty. I think it must be Mu Qing's all-seeing eye. Neptune said in a low voice. Yes, how could I have forgotten about this? The Dragon God slapped his head. It must be all-seeing eye. Little did they know that this was just their wishful thinking. They also didn't know that when they were discussing this matter, Qin Feiyang and the others were standing at the side. Although we know it's all-seeing eye, the people below won't believe it. Just bear with it for now. This time, Yu Lao from the Central Dynasty personally led people to help us. I think with his strength, he must have a way to resolve this. Neptune said. Yu Lao. The Dragon God's gaze trembled. Then I have to quickly pay him a visit. It's better if you don't go to the Sea God Island. Wait for Yu Lao to rest for 2 days. I'll bring him to your Dragon God Mountain, and we'll have a discussion there. Neptune said. What? I don't even have the qualifications to step into the Sea God Island now. The Dragon God was furious. No, right now, the people below hate you to the bone. If you go to the Sea God Island now, they will definitely speak rudely to you. Can you bear such humiliation? So, I'm doing this for your own good. Neptune comforted him. All right, the Dragon God sighed helplessly. A trace of killing intent suddenly appeared in his eyes. He said resentfully, It's all Qin Feiyang's fault. Sooner or later, I will skin them alive. West Continent Human Race. A huge city was located on a plain in the north. There were more than 10 million people in the city. Outside the city, on a mountain peak, 3 silhouettes appeared without a sound. It was Qin Feiyang and the other 2. Under Qin Feiyang's perception, the inner demons were in this city. But now the cities in the West Continent were heavily guarded. It was as difficult as ascending to the heavens to sneak in without being noticed. Don't worry. The inner demons should be able to sense that you are outside the city now, so they may take the initiative to look for you. Long Qin comforted him. He could understand Qin Feiyang's mood at this moment, but some things couldn't be rushed. However, after a while, the inner demons still didn't come out of the city. Under Qin Feiyang's perception, the inner demons had been staying somewhere in the city. No, I have to enter the city. Qin Feiyang took out an illusory appearance pill and prepared to change his appearance. Wait a minute. Long Qin stopped Qin Feiyang and said with a smile, Send a message to the human race's supreme being first. What's wrong? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. You will know when the time comes. Long Chin smiled. All right. Qin Feiyong glanced around. Seeing that there was no one around, he took out a voice transmission stone. Buzz. Soon, the phantom of the human race's supreme being appeared. Have you also received the news that the people of the Central Dynasty have arrived? The human race's supreme being looked at the three of them and asked. We didn't receive the news. We saw it with our own eyes. Long Chin smiled slightly. What? You are now on the Sea God Island. The human race's supreme being was shocked. These little fellows are too daring, aren't they? We were before, but not now. Well, Senior, we are now in a bit of trouble and need your help. Long Chin smiled. You will also encounter trouble? The human race's supreme being was very surprised. Hearing this, Long Chin couldn't help but smile bitterly. We are also mortals, and the omnipotent ones are gods. The human race's supreme being laughed. Tell me, what do you want me to help you with? Give us an enforcer's identity token. This way, we won't have to be checked when we go in and out of the major cities. Long Chin smiled. Qin Feiyong and Dong Zhengyang looked at each other. So this was the reason why they were looking for the human race's supreme being. Indeed, if they disguised themselves as Mount Supreme's enforcers, they would indeed be able to freely enter and exit the major cities. But the human race's supreme being was a bit hesitant. Don't worry. If our identities are still exposed in the end, we will announce to the public that we were the ones who killed your Mount Supreme's enforcers and impersonated them. We won't implicate you. Long Chin knew the human race's supreme being's concerns and promised. If that's the case, then there won't be a problem. Tell me the location. I will personally deliver it to you. The human race's supreme being smiled. He could only make this trip personally, because his subordinates still didn't know that he had formed an alliance with Qin Feiyong, and because of the spy incident, he didn't dare to easily trust anyone around him. Soon, the human race's supreme being came to the mountain peak and gave the three of them a few enforcers' tokens. Moreover, he also gave them a few sets of enforcers' clothes. The enforcers of Mount Supreme would usually wear the same clothes when carrying out missions. Are you planning to enter the city? The human race's supreme being looked at the city in front of him and asked. Yes, the three of them nodded. What are you going to do in the city? If we are really discovered, it will be quite difficult for me, because at that time I will have to send people to kill you. The human race's supreme being frowned. Long Chin glanced at Qin Feiyong and said with a smile, There's something important. Seeing that Long Chin didn't say anything, the human race's supreme being said helplessly, All right, I won't ask anymore. Be careful. Okay. Long Chin nodded. The human race's supreme being opened the space-time tunnel and left. Qin Feiyong and the other two quickly changed their clothes and changed their appearances. They wore the tokens on their waists and looked at each other. Clothes make the man and saddles make the horse. Wearing the enforcer's uniform, they really did look like enforcers. Then, the three of them soared into the sky and flew towards the city in a grand manner. However, although they were disguised as enforcers now, they couldn't pass through the city gate, because the city gate had heaven's eye stones. Once they entered the city gate, their identities would be exposed immediately. Therefore, they had to fly directly into the city, from above the city wall. The three of you, stop! But when they entered the sky above the city wall, the guard guarding the city gate immediately shouted. But when he raised his head and saw the three's clothes and the tokens on their waists, his expression changed. What's the matter? Qin Feiyong stopped and stared at the guards below. His expression was somewhat gloomy and stern. No, I thought someone was going to barge into the city. The guard quickly waved his hand, his eyes filled with fear. The enforcers of Mount Supreme had the power to kill and couldn't be offended. Chapter 4166. All right. Guard the city gate well. Don't let anyone suspicious go. Qin Feiyang said coldly, then turned around and rushed into the city without looking back. That was close. Watching the three of them leave, the guard patted his chest with lingering fear. He had no doubt about the identity of the three. Entering the city, the three of them landed on the street, swaggered along the street, and walked into a restaurant. When the waiter of the restaurant saw the three of them, he immediately went up to them and said in fear, "Is there anything important for you to visit our restaurant?" Qin Feiyang glanced around the hall. Soon, he saw the inner demons and Lu Jiejin in a corner. The excitement in his heart couldn't be any greater. At the same time, Long Qin also glanced at the inner demons, then looked at the waiter and said with a smile, "Don't be nervous, we're just here to drink." "I see." The waiter breathed a sigh of relief and said with a flattering smile, "There's a private room upstairs. I'll arrange it right away." "No need. I think it's over there." Long Chun pointed to the table next to the inner demons. The waiter was stunned and quickly said, "There are too many people in the hall. It's too noisy. I'm afraid to disturb the three of you." But before he finished speaking, Qin Feiyang stared at him directly. Okay. The waiter suddenly panicked and quickly nodded. "I'll clean it up right away." After saying that, he ran over to wipe the table. Qin Feiyang and the other two also walked over. In the hall, it was indeed noisy because there were more than a dozen tables of guests. But as they sat at the table, it immediately quieted down. Everyone's eyes were filled with fear. But the two masked young men next to them seemed not to see it and continued to drink. After a while, the waiter came over with good wine and dishes. After the waiter left, Qin Feiyang and the other two also drank as if nothing had happened. It seemed that they were waiting for the other party to speak first. Time passed by little. Qin Feiyang finally couldn't help but send a voice transmission. "Is it you?" His voice was a little trembling. The two masked youths were stunned. They turned to look at Qin Feiyang and asked suspiciously, "Brother, are you talking to us?" This reaction caused Qin Feiyang to be rather surprised. If he could sense the inner demons, it was impossible for the inner demons not to sense him. No matter how he changed his appearance, they should know it was him. But now his tone was completely that of a stranger. "Don't worry. Let me talk to them first." Long Qin comforted Qin Feiyang, because he knew that Qin Feiyang must be a bit confused at this moment. As for the inner demons, they came from the Central Dynasty, so they didn't know anything about them. Therefore, it was better to be vigilant. Hence, Long Chen picked up his wine glass, stood up, and walked to the opposite side of the inner demons. He smiled and said, "Gentlemen, may I sit down?" "You are." The black-clothed youth raised his head and looked at him in confusion. This voice, Qin Feiyang's eyes trembled. This was his big cousin's voice. Long Chun pointed to the token on his waist and smiled. "I am the enforcer of Mount Supreme." "Enforcer!" The two looked at the token. The black-haired youth smiled and said, "What's the matter?" "Nothing big. I just feel that the two of you are a bit familiar." Long Chin smiled. "We are all wearing masks, and you still feel that we are familiar? I really admire your eyesight," the blood-clothed youth said with a smile. At this moment, Qin Feiyang's arm trembled again, and the wine in the cup spilled out. Because this voice was the voice of the inner demons. There was no mistake, whether it was the inner demons or his big cousin. Their voices didn't change much from before. Dong Jingyang was also secretly paying attention to the two. His eyes flickered. Because he recognized the two's voices, Long Chin glanced at the inner demons and chuckled. "To be honest, I just feel that the masks on your faces are a bit familiar." "The masks are a bit familiar?" Hearing Long Chen's words, the others in the hall couldn't help but look at the inner demons. "Don't say. It really does seem a bit familiar. The two of you, Qin Feiyang and his group, are currently wreaking havoc in our divine kingdom. And the two of you are wearing masks, which makes you seem a bit mysterious. So please cooperate with the inspection. Long Chin spoke again. The smile on his face disappeared, and his eyes were slightly cold. Cooperate with the inspection? You are just an enforcer. Do you have the right? Look at what this is. The blood-clothed youth smiled in disdain. He took out a token and slammed it on the table. Sea God token. The hall suddenly became noisy. Their eyes were filled with respect. To be able to have the Sea God token, he was no ordinary person. Wait, I remember. They seemed to be the two mysterious young men who appeared out of nowhere and suppressed the geniuses of various clans. Suddenly, someone exclaimed, "What? They are the mysterious young men who suppressed the geniuses of various clans." Qin Feiyang and Dong Zhenyang looked at each other, their eyes full of disbelief. So, the inner demons and Lu Jiajin had already entered the divine kingdom 1,000 years ago? Long Qin pretended to recall for a moment. Suddenly, a look of realization appeared on his face. He looked at the two of them and said, "I was wondering why they looked a bit familiar. It turns out to be you. Now, do you still doubt our identity?" The blood-clothed youth laughed. "I wouldn't dare. However, the origins of the two of you are truly a bit surprising. You are actually from the Sea tribe." Long Qin smiled. "Who told you that we are from the Sea tribe?" The inner demons looked at Long Chan with interest. "If you are not from the Sea tribe, how can you have the Sea God token?" Long Qin asked back. "If you have the Sea God token, you must be from the Sea tribe? Your logic is a bit ridiculous." The inner demons pursed his lips with a hint of mockery. "Where are those two from? What is their relationship with the Sea tribe?" Long Chan was curious. "Where are we from?" The two of them looked at each other. The inner demons shook his head and sneered. "Your question is really quite stupid. Of course, we are from the human clan like you. As for our relationship with the Sea tribe, it is a long story. We don't need to report to you. If there is nothing else, don't disturb us from drinking." "Okay, sorry to disturb you." Long Chen smiled apologetically and returned to Qin Feiyang's side. He asked through voice transmission, "Did you notice anything strange from them?" Qin Feiyang and Dong Zhenyang pondered. Suddenly, light flashed in their eyes. There were hints. The first hint was about their origins. The inner demons said that they were from the human clan, like them. This same did not refer to the West Continent, nor the human clan of the Divine Kingdom. It was a hint that they came from the same place. That was the Great Qin. The second hint was when Long Qin asked them what their relationship with the Sea tribe was. The inner demon's answer was complicated. This was a long story, but it contained a deep meaning. What he meant was that he had his own difficulties. In other words, the inner demons admitted their identity through this hint, and they couldn't admit it now because they had other difficulties. It seems that Brother Qin hasn't lost his mind. Long Chun laughed secretly. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at him. His mind was indeed a little chaotic before, but now he had calmed down. Since the inner demons and Big Cousin were unwilling to admit it now, he would wait and see. Maybe they really had some difficulties. At this time, two middle-aged men walked in, sat next to them, and shouted, "Waiter, 2 pots of wine." "Okay." The waiter nodded and walked over quickly with 2 pots of wine. The two men raised their heads and drank half of the wine in one gulp. One of them put down the wine pot and shook his head. Qin Feiyang and his group have really stirred up trouble in the Divine Kingdom. Huh. Hearing this, everyone was stunned and turned to look at the two men. "Brother, what do you mean?" Long Qin also looked at the two men curiously. "Law enforcers." The two middle-aged men were stunned. They turned to look at Qin Feiyang and the other two, and their faces suddenly changed. "Don't be nervous." Long Chun waved his hand and smiled. He asked, "From what you said just now, did Qin Feiyang and his group make a big noise again?" "No, they didn't. There's news that the people of the Central Dynasty are here." The middle-aged man smiled obsequiously. The Central Dynasty. Everyone's eyes trembled. That's right. I heard that the Central Dynasty is specifically targeting Qin Feiyang and his group this time. And there's another news. Neptune personally said that he wants Qin Feiyang to go to the East Continent for a talk. The two middle-aged men said one after another. Neptune wants Qin Feiyang to go to the East Continent for a talk? Everyone was stunned. What did that mean? It's obvious. Neptune wants to negotiate with Qin Feiyang to rescue the sea gods and millions of people. Tell me the truth. I really admire the courage of Qin Feiyang and his group to go against these big shots. The two middle-aged men shook their heads and sighed. Yeah. First, it was Mount Supreme of the human race, then the divine island of the gods, then the dragon god mountain of the beasts, and now the sea god island of the oceanic race. And each time, they can inflict heavy losses on the major races. The most important thing is that they always manage to escape. I really don't know how they do it. People immediately began to talk with disbelief on their faces. They won't be arrogant for long. All of a sudden, the inner demons laughed and got up to pay the bill. Then he left with Lu Jiajin without looking back. Everyone was stunned as they looked at the backs of the two people. They disappeared for so long, and now they suddenly reappeared. Is it because of Qin Feiyang and his group? I'm afraid so. After all, they're the heavenly talents of the divine kingdom. As heavenly talents, they must be unconvinced when they meet arrogant people like Qin Feiyang. At the same time, Qin Feiyang and the other two looked at each other, got up to pay the bill, and left. After the three of them left, the people in the restaurant were no longer restrained, and their discussions became more unscrupulous. And the people on the street were also talking about it. Moreover, soon, another piece of news spread like crazy. A group of people appeared out of thin air in the 4 great continents and said that they wanted to challenge Qin Feiyang and his group. Qin Feiyang and the other two walked on the street and listened silently for a while. Then they opened a space-time passage and returned to the back mountain of the village. At this moment, in front of the wooden building, an old man was looking at the wooden building suspiciously. Why was there a time array here? Did he go to the wrong place? But no, this was indeed his home. This old man was Jijiu. After returning from the sea god island, a group of old men gathered together to discuss something. But suddenly, they found that Dong Xingyang had disappeared, so Jijiu came to the back mountain to take a look. As soon as he entered the tea garden, he sensed the aura of a time array. He thought that Dong Xingyang was in the house, but when he entered the house, there was no trace of Dong Xingyang at all. Dong Xingyang had disappeared. There was another time array here. What was going on? Whoosh! However, when Qin Feiyang and the other two came together and appeared on the balcony on the 2nd floor together, Jijiu knew what was going on, and he immediately put on a defensive posture. Chapter 4167. Master Jiu. As soon as Qin Feiyang appeared and saw Lord Jiu standing in front of the wooden building, a smile immediately appeared on his face. He asked, even though he already knew the answer, "You've returned from the sea god's island? Why didn't you inform us in advance? We could have gone to welcome you." One who is unaccountably solicitous is hiding evil intentions. Master Jiu snorted coldly, then turned around and scanned the tea garden. "Do you not trust us that much?" Qin Feiyang said with grievance. "Don't count me and Long Chin in. The old master doesn't trust you," Dong Zhengyang reminded. The corner of Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched. A moment later, Master Jiu heaved a sigh of relief. None of the tea trees in the tea garden were missing. Then he looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "What are you doing here?" "This." Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes and pulled Long Chen with a smile. "Let me introduce you. This is my good brother, Long Chen, and also Long Chen's elder brother. Master Jiu looked at Long Chen. "Hello, senior." Long Chen smiled slightly and said politely, "You're welcome." Master Jiu's expression eased a lot, and he said with a smile, "Your name is like thunder to this old man's ears." "No, no." Long Chen waved his hand modestly. "Don't be modest. In today's world, only your God's domain can really restrain the 3,000 incarnations. You don't know yet, do you? Now, as long as the young people in our clan mention you, they will change their expression. They all regard you as the biggest enemy of the purple gold divine dragon clan." Master Jijiu chuckled. Indeed, at present, the only method that could really restrain the 3,000 incarnations was Long Chen's God's domain. As for the dragon god and Neptune, although their origin energy could restrain the 3,000 incarnations, in a sense it couldn't be considered a restraint. "Ha!" Hearing this, Long Chen was quite embarrassed. "Tell me the truth." "When I first heard about the god's domain, I was also shocked. How could someone activate such a fighting soul? Fortunately, we are not enemies now." Jijiu said with a smile, "It's all because of your righteousness that we were able to turn enemies into friends." These words were not false at all. If it weren't for the decisiveness of this group of elders, the monarch would probably still be hesitating. Jijiu was taken aback. He shook his head and said with a smile, "Young man, you really know how to talk." "It's the truth." Long Chen's flattery made Jijiu very happy. He then asked, "Do you know the current situation of the Divine Sea Island?" "I know." Qin Feiyang nodded. "You know." Master Jijiu was taken aback. He had received the news so quickly? "Everyone is talking about it now. Someone from the Central Dynasty has also issued a challenge to me. I really don't understand. Don't these people know how to keep a low profile?" Qin Feiyang shook his head. "Even you know how to keep a low profile?" Jijiu was speechless. He really wanted to ask if Jijiu had ever kept a low profile after coming to the Divine Kingdom. "I was forced by the situation. If the situation allows, I don't want to show my face at all," Qin Feiyang said helplessly. Yes. You were forced by us." Jijiu rolled his eyes and asked, "So, what are you going to do now?" "Do you plan to?" Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and shook his head. "I don't have any plans. Let them be if they want to clamor." "What about the sea gods and the millions of Oceanids?" Jijiu asked. "Well, let's talk about it after I come out of seclusion." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. He was not in a hurry to deal with this matter at all. "You want to go into seclusion?" Jijiu looked at him suspiciously. Not only had this kid comprehended the ultimate profundity of the law of life and death, but he had also mastered 2 wills of the heavenly Tao. Did he still need to go into seclusion? Yes. How can you make yourself stronger if you don't go into seclusion? Qin Feiyang chuckled. That makes sense. But now that your strength has reached the peak, what are you going to cultivate in seclusion? Jijiu was puzzled. You can comprehend other laws. Our plan is to master the ultimate mysteries of all the laws in the world. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Jijiu was stunned. This dream was really ambitious. However, it was easier said than done. Thinking back to his life, after countless years, he had only comprehended these ultimate mysteries of the strongest laws. But we'll stay here when we go into seclusion. Don't drive us away. Qin Feiyang bared his teeth. What? You want to go into seclusion with me? Jijiu immediately became vigilant. He was definitely up to no good. You don't welcome us? Qin Feiyang asked. Of course, you don't welcome us. Jijiu snorted coldly. I can't wait for you to get lost now, so that you don't have to worry about me all day. I'm so sad. Qin Feiyang lowered his head and sighed. Originally, I wanted to stay here and take good care of you, but now that you said that, Stop! Ji couldn't stand it anymore and said with a dark face, "Don't put on a sad show with me here. Just tell me, what's your purpose?" "No purpose. Really? Let's talk about it later. You've already given me dozens of tea trees. If I still have other thoughts, am I still human?" Qin Feiyang smiled flatteringly. Stop. Don't be so glib with me." Ji rubbed his forehead. When he thought of those dozens of tea trees, he couldn't help but feel distressed. But now he actually said that he was the one who gave them to him? Please calm down. Anger hurts your liver. Qin Feiyang hurriedly stepped forward and patted Ji back gently. It hurts my liver because you're angry. Ji glared at him and said helplessly, "Okay, I can let you stay, but I'll say the ugly words first. Don't have any other thoughts. Don't worry. We'll definitely behave." Qin Feiyang immediately patted his chest and promised, "I believe in Dong Xingyang and Long Chen's rules, but I'll give you 2 words, haha." Ji face was full of disdain. Qin Feiyang smiled awkwardly. This great-grandfather of his was really quite displeased with him now. Ji sighed helplessly. He could only be considered unlucky to have met this kid. Then he looked at Dong Xingyang and asked, "Have you integrated the inheritance I gave you?" "Yes." Dong Xingyang nodded. "Then wait a moment. I'll go to Big Brother and get another inheritance." After saying that, Ji was ready to go down the mountain. Don't. Thank you for your kindness, Ji, but now I don't need it anymore. You'd better keep it for yourselves and give it to the descendants who will need it in the future." Dong Xingyang said. "What do you mean?" Ji was stunned and looked at him suspiciously. Dong Xingyang and Qin Feiyang looked at each other and smiled. "Brother Qin has already given me all the ultimate mysteries." "What?" Ji looked at the 2 of them in shock. "All the ultimate mysteries? Did he hear it wrong?" "Yes. The various supreme laws and the various ordinary laws are all present," Yi Futian said. Dong Xingyang nodded. Hearing this, Ji took a deep breath and looked at Qin Feiyang. "Where did you get so many inheritances?" "Well, if you give me dozens of tea trees, I'll tell you." Qin Feiyang chuckled. "Get lost." Ji face immediately darkened. Sure enough, he was still coveting his tea garden. No, he couldn't let a wolf into his house. Don't misunderstand, I'm just joking. Qin Feiyang noticed that something was wrong with Ji eyes. He immediately smiled flatteringly and said, "It's all thanks to Long Chin, but this matter has to be kept a secret for the time being." Ji looked at Long Chin again. Long Chin just smiled mysteriously. "Okay, I won't ask." Ji glanced at the 2 of them and shook his head. "Since you're going to stay here, let's go down and say hello to everyone first. It just so happens that your other great-grandfathers and great-grandmothers are also very interested in Long Chin." "Okay." Qin Feiyang nodded. Then, the 3 of them followed Ji and flew down the mountain. Seeing Qin Feiyang coming down from the back mountain, Boss Ji and the other elders couldn't help but be stunned. When they introduced Long Chin, the group of elders also praised him. The 4 great continents. It was quite lively during this period of time. Firstly, it was because of the grudge between Qin Feiyang and the Sea tribe. Secondly, it was because of the 10 great prodigies from the Central Dynasty. Not only did these prodigies issue a challenge to Qin Feiyang, but they also entered the clans of the various races in a high-profile manner. Mount Supreme. That morning, 2 figures descended in the sky. "Who is it?" The 10 sovereigns guarding Mount Supreme immediately rushed into the sky. When they saw who it was, a trace of suspicion appeared on their faces. They were 2 young men wearing masks. One had black hair like a waterfall, and the other had red hair. It was the inner demons and Lu Jiajin. Lu Jiajin crossed his arms and remained silent. The inner demons glanced at the 10 sovereigns and laughed. "Lord Sovereigns, How many years has it been? You don't remember us? It's you. The 10 sovereigns took a closer look, and their pupils immediately shrank. They immediately recalled the scene from 1,000 years ago. Back then, just like today, the two of them directly charged into Mount Supreme and swept through all the prodigies there. It seems that the sovereigns have a good memory. I wonder if the prodigies of Mount Supreme have improved after all these years? The inner demons looked down at the mountains and rivers below, a bloody light flashing in his eyes. The 10 sovereigns looked at each other and frowned. Are they here to challenge the prodigies of Mount Supreme again? The inner demons smirked and shouted, "Those who lost to us before, don't hide in your cave abodes. Come out quickly. Bastard, what are you so arrogant for?" Before he finished, a group of young men and women angrily rushed into the sky along with a few angry shouts. The blue-haired young man, Wang Feng, the red-clothed woman, Luo Dan, and the black-clothed young man, Lu Sheng. These people who lost to Qin Feiyang and the others were also among them. The inner demons looked at them one by one and was slightly stunned. He said suspiciously, "I remember there's someone called Zhao Hong, right? Why don't I see him? Could it be that he's scared out of his wits and doesn't dare to come out?" When the group heard this, their faces were filled with anger, especially the 10 sovereigns. Killing intent flowed out from their eyes. However, this killing intent wasn't targeted at the inner demons and Lu Jijin. It was targeted at Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing. The rumors can't be true, right? Zhao Hong was killed by Mu Qing's people. The inner demons asked. Remaining 2 chapters. Release before 11 o'clock. Chapter 4168. Why did he have to rub salt into their wounds? Back then, Zhao Hong was killed by Mu Qing with a flame magic sword, and it happened at Mount Supreme. After that, many creatures in the West continent talked about them behind their backs. So, they didn't want to think about it because it was humiliating. But now, the inner demons tore open their wounds mercilessly, so they were naturally furious. It's true. TSK, TSK, TSK. How embarrassing. Although this Zhao Hong is indeed trash, he managed to last 2 rounds against me back then. Never would I have thought that he would actually die at the hands of trash like Mu Qing. The inner demon snickered. How dare you? Wang Feng was furious. He took a step forward and charged into the sky. The laws of time, the laws of gold, and the laws of earth were activated. The inner demons paused for a moment and said in surprise, "I remember that you mastered these 3 ultimate mysteries back then. Why are you still using the same 3 ultimate mysteries? Then let me see how strong you have become." Wang Feng was furious. The 3 ultimate mysteries attacked crazily. The inner demon, smiled faintly, the disdain between her brows vividly displayed. Boom! A force of death and a force of destruction burst out with a roar. 2 ultimate laws instantly appeared out of thin air and crushed down on Yi Qingyu like crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. Seeing this, the 10 sovereigns quickly activated their laws and formed a barrier to isolate the battlefield. Otherwise, Mount Supreme would be razed to the ground again. At the same time, they were also looking forward to it. How strong were these 2 mysterious young men now? Ordinary people didn't know. But as the sovereigns of Mount Supreme, they knew about the inner demons. These years, the reason why they disappeared was because they went to the Central Dynasty. Even the sovereigns of the human race didn't dare to enter the Central Dynasty without permission, let alone the sovereigns. The 2 of them had been in the Central Dynasty for so many years, so they should be even more terrifying than before. Boom! In the blink of an eye, the 5 ultimate mysteries clashed. There was no suspense. Wang Feng's 3 ultimates were completely crushed by Yi Xuan's attack. This was because, even though he had 3 ultimate profound meanings, he only had 1 ultimate profound meaning. As for the inner demons, The two ultimate profound meanings were both ultimate laws, with Wang Feng's one supreme law and two ordinary laws. How could he block his two supreme laws? Puff! Wang Feng immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. However, his expression became more and more gloomy. Back then, I was indeed no match for you. But now, killing you is like killing a dog. As he laughed, a terrifying death energy surged out of Wang Feng's body like a tide. Rumble! The 18 levels of hell instantly appeared in the sky, emitting a monstrous aura. Not bad. I've already comprehended the ultimate profundity of the laws of death. The inner demons cackled. When he invaded the sky cloud realm, Wang Feng had yet to comprehend the ultimate profundity of the laws of death. It could be seen that he had grown quite quickly over the years. Kneel down and accept your death, Wang Feng sneered. The laws of time, earth, and metal were activated once again. The four ultimate profound meanings instantly carried a destructive aura as they charged toward the inner demons. Sigh. The inner demons shook his head and sighed. His gaze suddenly turned cold as he said domineeringly, "You want me to kneel down and accept my death? Do you have the qualifications?" Rumble. His body shook. The laws of time and space emerged. In the sky, a river of stars appeared. Countless stars flickered, and each star was like a world, exuding a vast aura. This is... Wang Feng's gaze trembled. The laws of time and space, the ultimate profundity. Trash, you're still trash. The inner demons cackled. The laws of death and destruction appeared once again. The three ultimate profound meanings shattered the sky and charged toward Wang Feng. With a loud bang, Wang Feng's four ultimate profound meanings were once again crushed. Following that, the inner demon's ultimate profound meaning ruthlessly charged toward Wang Feng. Wang Feng's gaze trembled. All these years he had worked hard enough, especially when he was defeated by Qin Feiyang and the others in the Tianyin realm. He had been cultivating in seclusion, hoping that one day he would be able to wash away his shame. But unexpectedly, he was still not a match for this person. In the nick of time, Luo Dan and Lu Sheng rushed into the barrier and stood in front of Wang Feng. Numerous ultimate profound meanings appeared. Right now, both of them had also grasped two ultimate profound meanings. Their strength had also improved a lot. Moreover, there were also two ordinary laws of time and space. Adding them together, that was 8 ultimate profound meanings. People who could master 4 ultimate profound meanings, even if 2 of them were ordinary laws, were already strong enough. In the Tianyin realm, there would be giants who dominated a region. Therefore, one could not underestimate these geniuses of the divine kingdom just because Qin Feiyang and the others were powerful. It was no exaggeration to say that Wang Feng and the other 2 were on par with giants like the Feather Emperor, the Blood Ancestor, the Dragon King Feng Ho, and the Kirin Lord. 8 ultimate profound meanings swept out. The 3 ultimate profound meanings of the inner demons, 3 ultimate profound meanings shattered. The corner of his mouth, a stream of blood flowed out. Since you can't fight me one-on-one, you want to gang up? All right, I'll fulfill your wish. If you're not convinced, come at me together. The inner demons glanced at the other geniuses below and laughed. Arrogant. Wait until you defeat Wang Feng, Luo Dan, and Lu Sheng first. The geniuses below sneered. Just these 3 trash? Don't joke around. Killing them is as easy as crushing an ant. The inner demons laughed wildly. Rumble. Inside his body, wisps of terrifying and despairing auras burst out from the ground. Destruction law, space-time law, death law after that. A time law and a karma law surged out. Boom! In just an instant, the ultimate profound meanings of the 5 ultimate profound meanings appeared in the sky. The terrifying aura shook the world. What? The ultimate profundity of the 5 supreme laws. Wang Feng and his crew, the geniuses and the 10 martial highnesses, were dumbfounded. This was too strong. Are you scared already? Trash like you should be honored to be able to make me use 1% of my strength. The inner demons smiled coldly. As soon as he finished speaking, the law of devour roared out again. What? The ultimate profound of the 6 supreme laws. Doesn't that mean he has already grasped the will of the heavenly Tao? At this moment, all the disciples on Mount Supreme felt as if they had been struck by lightning, and their minds rumbled. The will of the heavenly Tao, this was an existence comparable to the 10 great venerables. And the will of the heavenly Tao was also the symbol of the strongest, because mastering the will of the heavenly path was equivalent to standing at the top of the pyramid of the divine kingdom. No, to an ordinary person, the will of the heavenly Tao was standing at the peak of the cultivation path. In the meantime, the hearts of the 10 martial highnesses were filled with great astonishment. They remembered that when this person appeared 1,000 years ago, he had only mastered 2 ultimate profundities of the supreme laws. How could he have comprehended 4 ultimate profundities in a mere 1,000 years? Even with the time array, he couldn't have done it. Could it be that this person was hiding his strength back then? Boom! It was another scene of destruction. In the blink of an eye, Wang Feng and his crew were all severely injured and fell to the ground. The other geniuses below still had the courage to clamor before, but after seeing the will of the heavenly Tao, they were only left with fear. I'm flattering you by calling you trash. The inner demons scanned the crowd with a look of disdain. Then he smashed the bodies of a group of geniuses with a palm, and blood dyed the sky red. Wang Feng and his crew's divine souls escaped from the barrier, and their faces were filled with fear. But the inner demons didn't look at them again. It was as if they weren't qualified for him to look at them again. He stepped in front of the barrier, and a divine light flashed from his fingertip, and the barrier was shattered on the spot. The 10 martial highnesses were stunned. What kind of technique was this? It actually broke the barrier that they set up together in an instant. Human geniuses? What a joke! The inner demons smiled contemptuously, opened a space-time tunnel, and left without looking back. Lu Jiajin didn't say a word. After the battle ended, he just smiled faintly, turned around, and entered the tunnel, leaving with the inner demons. So powerful! Among the younger generation of the divine kingdom, I'm afraid he's the first one to master the will of the heavenly Tao. Maybe their appearance isn't a bad thing. The great venerable whispered. What do you mean? The other 9 martial highnesses looked at him in confusion. Because the 2 of them should be able to fight against people like Qin Feiyang. The great venerable's eyes flashed. Hearing this, the 9 martial highnesses couldn't help but be moved. That's right. Qin Feiyang and the others all mastered the will of the heavenly Tao, not to mention the younger generation of the divine kingdom. Even the older generation like them couldn't compete with them. Maybe the 2 mysterious young men could break this situation. The news of the inner demons coming to Mount Supreme and defeating the human race's prodigies quickly spread across the 4 continents. Any living being who learned of this was shocked to the extreme. Even the king and the divine king were shocked when they received the message from the human race's sovereign. They didn't expect it. In just 1,000 years, the 2 mysterious young men had become so powerful. The next day, God Race's sacred land, God's island, 2 figures descended on the God's island. It was the inner demons and Lu Jiajin again. With their arrival, the God's island immediately fell into chaos. What is the meaning of this? The divine king personally appeared and asked the 2. Back then, it was the same situation. After defeating the prodigies of Mount Supreme, they came to the God's island the next day. Lord Divine King, aren't you asking the obvious? The inner demons laughed. The divine king suppressed the anger in his heart and said, "There's no need to fight anymore. The prodigies of the god race are no match for you." I didn't expect Lord Divine King to be so straightforward. However, it can be seen that the prodigies of the god race are no different from the prodigies of Mount Supreme. They're all a bunch of trash. The inner demons laughed and was about to turn and leave. "Who are you calling trash?" Suddenly, an angry roar sounded and a group of young men ran out. Among them were Jiang Xing and Jiang Chen. "Don't mess around." The Divine King's expression changed and immediately shouted. Although he was extremely unhappy with the inner demon's arrogant attitude, there was nothing he could do. No one in the younger generation of the god race could compete with them. Even if he was angry, he could only endure it. Moreover, this place was someone from the Central Dynasty. All the more he couldn't provoke them. Chapter 41:69. Lord, he has humiliated our god clan. If we don't dare to accept the challenge, wouldn't that be tantamount to admitting that the younger generation of the god clan is trash? If so, how will the world talk about us behind our backs in the future? So, Lord, please allow us to fight with him. Jiang Chen bowed and asked for permission to fight. That's right. That's a man with guts. If you don't even have the courage to fight, I'm afraid you can't even be considered trash. The inner demons smirked. His attitude was arrogant to the extreme. Lu Jiajin was still the same as before. He crossed his arms and stood silently at the side, looking like a bystander. All right. The Divine King looked at Jiang Chen and the rest. Seeing that this group of young people had a determined attitude, he couldn't help but nod gently. Then he looked at the inner demons and said, "But let's say this first. Don't go too far. Of course, I won't even activate the will of the heavenly path." The inner demons nodded. The Divine King raised his eyebrows. It seemed like he was giving in, but in fact he was humiliating the god clan. Why don't I see Jiang Yunshuang? Could it be that the rumors are true and he was killed by Qin Feiyang? The inner demons looked at the group of people mockingly. "Shut up." Jiang Chen and Jiang Xing took a step forward and instantly activated all their ultimate profound meanings. Now, both of them had mastered the ultimate profound meanings of two ultimate laws. Moreover, with the mark of the god clan, they could erupt with lethality that surpassed the ultimate profound meanings. "Seems like I've poked your sore spot." The inner demons grinned. Although he said he would stop, he didn't show any mercy. The ultimate profound meanings of all 6 ultimate laws were activated. The will of the heavenly path suddenly erupted. Boom! In just an instant, the two of them were seriously injured and couldn't fight back. That's it. The inner demons was stunned. His tone was full of mockery. "Didn't you say you won't activate the will of the heavenly path?" Jiang Chen roared. "You believe me just because I said so?" The inner demon smiled brightly, but his eyes looked like he was looking at a fool. "Bastard, let's attack together." Jiang Chen was enraged to the extreme. As he shouted, the outstanding geniuses of the god clan soared up into the sky, using their ultimate power Upanishads and god marks. That battle formation was indeed a little frightening. You are indeed more courageous than those trash from Mount Supreme. However, the difference in strength is not something that can be made up for with bloodthirst. The inner demons took a step forward, and the will of the heavenly path shrouded the entire area. They began to fight with the group of Skype rides. Don't say it. Relying on the god clan's mark and their advantage in numbers, the group of heavenly legends was quite capable. They were evenly matched with the inner demons. This gave the group of Skype rides a glimmer of hope to defeat the inner demons. Jiang Chen and Jiang Xing, in particular, were brimming with killing intent. Haha, the mark of the god clan is indeed extraordinary. However, it's still inferior to the will of the heavenly Tao. The inner demons cackled. "Shao, Qin activated the instant time and landed beside Jiang Qin. Then he sent a palm strike at Jiang Chen's head. Ah! Accompanied by a painful scream, Jiang Chen's head shattered on the spot. His soul fled in terror. In less than a few breaths, the other Sky Prides were also defeated one after another. Their bodies were all destroyed. Their souls escaped from their bodies and flew towards the Divine King in terror. Don't panic. We agreed to stop at a certain point. I won't harm your lives. The inner demons laughed wantonly. The Divine King clenched his fists, suppressing the anger in his heart, and said, "Since you are so powerful, then I will rely on you to defeat Qin Feiyang and the others in the future." Qin Feiyang, the inner demon's expression changed slightly, but it instantly returned to normal. He cackled. "Don't worry, I will not disappoint Lord Divine King's expectations." Swish! However, at this moment, two purple figures descended from the sky. "Come and defeat us first." They were Ryuko and Ji Shaoi. The Divine King was taken aback. Why would these two take the initiative to come to the island and challenge this mysterious youth? The inner demons also looked surprised. "Anyway, you will go to the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan to challenge us tomorrow, so we might as well take the initiative to find you." Ryuko said proudly, "Haha, you know us quite well." The inner demons laughed. "Laugh all you want. You will cry later." Ryuko sneered. "So confident. But why did I hear that you can't even defeat Qin Feiyang? No, you can't even defeat Long Chen of the Sky Cloud Realm?" The inner demons looked at him mockingly. When Ryuko heard this, his face darkened. This matter was also the shame of his life. Whenever he thought of this matter, he couldn't help but go crazy. "Don't be provoked by him," Ji Shaoi reminded. "Don't worry, I am not that weak." Long Chen smiled ferociously. He activated his 3,000 incarnations and said coldly, "So what if you have the will of the heavenly Tao? In front of the 3,000 incarnations of my purple gold Divine Dragon Clan, you are just an ant." The inner demons frowned and said, "I remember when I fought with you back then, you didn't inherit the 3,000 incarnations, right? That's why I was defeated by you back then. And now I have 3,000 incarnations, and I am no longer someone you can provoke. Today I will wash away my shame." Ryuko smiled sinisterly. Ultimate profound meanings appeared one after another. The law of cause and effect, the law of destruction, and the law of time. Back then, when he invaded the Sky Cloud Realm, his law of time was only at the level of the ultimate profound meaning. It could be seen. He had worked very hard these years. 3 ultimate profound meanings of the strongest law, plus 3,000 incarnations. That was a total of 9,000 ultimate profound meanings. With 9,000 ultimate profound meanings of the strongest law, the will of the heavenly Tao really couldn't contend with it. In short, to fight against 3,000 incarnations, unless you also had 3,000 incarnations, Long Chen's domain of divinity, or the power of origin of the divine kingdom, no matter how strong you were, you couldn't be a match for 3,000 incarnations. The Divine King raised his eyebrows and said in a deep voice, "Go to the galaxy!" 9,000 ultimate profound meanings were equivalent to 9,000 sovereign divine weapons. Even the barrier she personally set up on the island couldn't resist such divine power. "Don't run if you have the guts." Ryuko glanced at the Divine King, stared at the inner demons, and smiled coldly. Then he took Ji Shaoi and the 3,000 incarnations and rushed toward the galaxy without looking back. Run. The word run will never exist in my dictionary. The inner demons muttered and took a step into the sky. A monstrous, murderous aura roared out, and the void around him instantly turned into a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. Even the Divine King couldn't help but be shocked by such a murderous aura. How many massacres did he have to go through? How much blood did his hands have to be stained with to create such a terrifying, murderous aura? 3,000 incarnations! It's still worth looking forward to. Lu Jiajin smiled faintly and also stepped into the galaxy. Worth looking forward to. The Divine King was in disbelief when he heard this. These words were too arrogant. The power of 3,000 incarnations was obvious to all. Even she, the Divine King, was afraid of them. But in this person's eyes, it was only worth looking forward to. Fine. I want to see what other abilities you have besides the will of the heavenly Tao. Behave yourselves. After warning Jiang Chen and the others, the Divine King also stepped into the galaxy without looking back. Chapter 4170. Star River. Ryuko and Ji Shaoi were the first to enter the Star River. When the inner demons stepped into the Star River, Ryuko sneered. Don't say I didn't give you a chance. Now, I'll give you some time to prepare. The inner demons was slightly taken aback. You're so confident that you can defeat me? What do you think? Take a good look at the 3,000 incarnations behind me. They have a total of 9,000 ultimate laws. What are you going to use to fight me? Don't tell me you also have 3,000 incarnations. The corner of Ryuko's mouth raised slightly. That arrogant attitude made the inner demons laugh. What are you laughing at? Ryuko raised his eyebrows. Now I finally understand why you've been defeated repeatedly in the Sky Cloud realm. With your arrogant personality, it's already a miracle that you can live until now. The inner demon's face was full of ridicule. With such a playboy mentality, you can fight me and that wolf cub? Isn't that just crushing? You're courting death. Ryuko's eyes turned cold. He could say anything, but what happened in the Sky Cloud realm couldn't be mentioned in front of him, because it would be exposing his scars. As his voice fell, the 3,000 incarnations were also full of murderous intent. 9,000 ultimate laws suddenly turned into a torrent, drowning the starry sky and crazily attacking the inner demons. Do you need me? Lu Jiajin, who was standing not far away, suddenly asked. The Divine King stood at the entrance of the Star River. When he heard this, he immediately looked at Lu Jiajin. From his tone, could this young man defeat the 3,000 incarnations? In today's world, it seemed that only Long Chen's domain of divinity could restrain the 3,000 incarnations. Where did this confidence come from? The inner demons glanced at Lu Jiajin, then glanced at the 3,000 incarnations behind Ryuko and laughed. Won't you be using a sledgehammer to crack a nut? You just watch from the side. Okay. Lu Jiajin nodded. Although his expression couldn't be seen due to the mask, his eyes remained calm. He didn't put Ryuko and Ji Shaoi in his eyes at all. In the blink of an eye, the 9,000 ultimate laws of nature were about to reach the inner demons. That terrifying aura was indeed a little frightening, but the red eyes of the inner demons were filled with mockery. Boom! All of a sudden, a monstrous, baleful aura erupted. In an instant, the inner demons seemed to have transformed into a blood-clad demon king. Waves of blood surged around him, drowning the entire area. It was also within the waves of blood that several figures suddenly appeared. Every single one of these figures wore blood-red clothes and had blood-red hair. They were like peerless demon kings that had returned, and their murderous auras soared into the sky. The most important thing was these blood-cloaked demon kings were exactly the same as the inner demons in terms of height and temperament. However, their faces were shrouded in a bloody mist, making it impossible for others to see their true appearances. 3,000 clones? The Divine King's eyes widened. If these weren't 3,000 incarnations, then what were they? This person actually had 3,000 incarnations as well. How is this possible? 3,000 incarnations was a secret technique of the purple-gold Divine Dragon Clan. Qin Feiyang was able to master 3,000 incarnations because of the princess of the divine kingdom. But this person, he was neither a relative nor a friend of the purple gold divine dragon clan. How could he have the opportunity to obtain 3,000 incarnations? Why do you have 3,000 incarnations? Ryuko and Ji Shaoi's faces were also filled with disbelief. The inner demons raised the corners of his mouth and joked. Do you think these are 3,000 incarnations? If these aren't 3,000 incarnations, then what are they? You actually stole the secret of our purple gold divine dragon clan. Ryuko roared. Ignorance is terrible. The inner demons shook his head. The waves of blood surged, covering the sky and the sun. There weren't 3,000 blood-clad demon kings standing in the waves of blood. There were only 1,000 of them. However, the aura emitted by these 1,000 blood-clad demon kings was enough to make the galaxy collapse crazily. Boom! The next moment, ultimate profound meanings appeared one after another, and the will of heaven roared out. Not only can these incarnations activate the ultimate profound meanings, but they also have the will of heaven like you. You still say that these aren't 3,000 incarnations? Ryuko roared. Haha, you're indeed an ignorant fool. The inner demons sneered. Those 1,000 blood-clad demon kings had only activated 2,000 ultimate profound meanings. But even so, with the support of the will of heaven, each of these 2,000 ultimate profound meanings could fight one against 6. Rumble. Accompanied by a loud explosion, Ryuko's 9,000 ultimate profound meanings were instantly annihilated in the galaxy. Puff! He spat out a mouthful of blood. Ryuko's eyes trembled. What was going on? A person who had nothing to do with the purple gold divine dragon clan actually had 3,000 incarnations? If Qin Feiyang and Qin Batian had 3,000 incarnations, this was understandable. After all, they were the descendants of the princess of the divine kingdom. But the person in front of them was clearly a human of the divine kingdom. How could the humans of the divine kingdom have obtained their secrets that were not to be passed on? 3,000 incarnations doesn't seem to be a big deal. The inner demons laughed. Bastard! Not only did he steal 3,000 incarnations of the purple gold divine dragon clan, but he also slandered them. Ryuko was burning with anger. Ji Shaoi, kill him with me. Okay. Ji Shaoi nodded. Swoosh! Behind him, 3,000 clones instantly appeared. The inner demons and Lu Jejin were stunned. This person also had 3,000 incarnations. What was going on? Didn't the purple gold divine dragon race only have the Overlord, Heavenly Lord Ji, the Dragon Prince and Boss Ji, who had 3,000 incarnations? Boom! As the 3,000 incarnations were activated, the ultimate profound meaning of the law of death appeared. Ji Shaoi had only mastered this ultimate profound meaning. But even so, with 3,000 incarnations, he could still unleash terrifying combat power. Because 3,000 incarnations could increase his combat power by 3,000 times. Ji Shaoi had indeed profited from a disaster. Although he had lost his most powerful battle soul, the Eye of Destiny, the 3,000 incarnations gave him the ability to look down on all the elites of the divine kingdom. Boom! Ryuko activated his ultimate profound meaning again. 12,000 ultimate profundities of supreme laws, carrying with them the power to destroy the heavens and earth, charged toward the inner demon. You're still too naive. The inner demons shook his head. Boom! 1,000 blood-robe demon lords, 6 ultimate profound meanings, and the will of the heavenly way exploded. At this moment, Ryuko and Ji Shaoi couldn't help but feel desperate. Although the other party only had 1,000 incarnations, the 6 ultimate profound meanings and the will of the heavenly way pressed down on them like a mountain. Boom! There was no suspense. This was a situation that could destroy everything in its path. The 12,000 ultimate laws of Ryuko and Ji Shaoi shattered like rotten wood. The 3,000 incarnations were also collapsing. Why? Ryuko roared hysterically. He thought that by inheriting the 3,000 incarnations, he would be able to avenge the humiliation from 1,000 years ago. However, he didn't expect the other party to also have 3,000 incarnations. Not only did he fail to take revenge, but he was also severely humiliated again. You still think that these are 3,000 incarnations? No. Let me tell you now. This is the Demon King's real body. It's a supreme killing technique that I created myself. The inner demons looked at the two of them with disdain. What? Their eyes trembled. The Demon King's real body? A supreme killing technique that he created himself? How was this possible? The Divine King also had a look of disbelief. How powerful must he be to be able to create such a terrifying killing technique? 1,000 years ago, when we came to challenge you, I had already created the Demon King's real body. However, none of you so-called elites had the ability to make me activate the Demon King's real body. But this time, I have a whole new level of respect for you. At least, you can make me use this trump card. The inner demon snickered. Impossible. Don't lie to us. This is obviously 3,000 incarnations. Ji Shaoi shook his head. Sigh. It seems that if I don't let you see the true face of the Demon King's real body, you won't believe it. The inner demons shook his head and sighed, as soon as his voice faded. Behind him, another 2,000 blood-robed Demon Kings appeared. In total, there were a total of 3,000. It was exactly the same as the number of 3,000 incarnations. Moreover, the bodies of these 3,000 blood-robed Demon Kings began to swell with the wind. In just an instant, they turned into giants that were tens of thousands of feet tall. There were even pairs of blood-red wings growing on their backs. There were a total of 9 pairs, 18 blood-red wings. Their faces were still shrouded in blood mist, and their true appearance could not be seen clearly. From afar, it was like an ancient demon god had descended into the world, exuding a terrifying aura. This is the true face of the Demon King's real body. The Divine King murmured. Sure enough, it was not 3,000 incarnations. It was hard to imagine how powerful this person was to be able to comprehend a terrifying killing technique similar to the 3,000 incarnations. It seemed that this was the reason why the Central Dynasty valued him, because the Demon King's real body was completely capable of competing with the 3,000 incarnations. As long as this person could be brought into the Central Dynasty, then the Central Dynasty would have the means to suppress the purple, gold, divine Dragon Clan. The Divine King looked at Lu Jiajin again. The inner demons had such terrifying strength. What about this person? Could it be that he also had the means of 3,000 incarnations and the Demon King's real body? The remaining 2 chapters will be released before 11 o'clock. Chapter 4171. Lu Jiajin noticed the Divine King's gaze, but he didn't show any arrogance or rudeness. He nodded and smiled at the Divine King. Looking at Lu Jiajin's eyes, the Divine King was slightly stunned. This pair of eyes were extremely clear, like a bright mirror. Moreover, they were extremely infectious. He could imagine that this was a young man with an extraordinary state of mind. Why wasn't such a person born in the God Clan? Whether it was these 2 young men in front of him, or Qin Feiyang and the others, any one of them could be born in the God Clan and become the pride of the God Clan. Unfortunately, this was all a fantasy. Looking at Ryuko and Ji Shaoi again, looking at the 3,000 Demon King real bodies behind the inner demons, they were extremely shocked. He could actually create a killing technique as powerful as the 3,000 Demon Kings. They originally thought that no matter how monstrous the other party was, he would at most be on the same level as them. Because in the Divine Kingdom, Ryuko was already a top genius. But they never expected that the other party was a person who could create such a killing technique. One had to know, even the older generation of the Divine Kingdom, such as the monarch, couldn't create such a killing technique. Compared to this person, how could they be called geniuses? They weren't even idiots. Are you convinced? The inner demons laughed. The two looked at each other and couldn't help but lower their heads. They couldn't face him. Are you ashamed? Do you feel like clowns? The inner demons laughed. The 3,000 Demon King real bodies burst out with a terrifying aura. The ultimate meaning and the divine power of the will of heaven surged toward the two. The two trembled and immediately knelt in the void. Their faces were pale, and their eyes were filled with despair. Stop! The Divine King saw that the situation was not good and hurried forward to stand in front of the two. Ryuko was the monarch's grandson. Ji Shaoi was also Ji Yunhai's grandson. He couldn't die in the God Clan's territory. You want to be a busybody? The inner demons looked at the Divine King with bloody eyes. Even the Divine King could not help but feel fear in the face of the power of the inner demons. Whether it's the God race, the human race, the purple gold divine dragon race, the beast race, or the sea race, they're all members of the Divine Kingdom. There's no need to harm each other. The Divine King said solemnly, "But I am from the Central Dynasty. In the eyes of the Central Dynasty, the 5 major races are nothing but ants." The inner demons laughed sinisterly. Various ultimate intents were activated at once. A monstrous might swept through the galaxy. The Divine King's expression suddenly changed. He hurriedly pulled Ryuko and the other two away. "You're courting death," the inner demons said coldly. The 3,000 demon emperors flapped their bloody wings and charged at the 3 cultivators like a group of deities. The wind howled, and waves of blood filled the sky. "It's just a spar. Why make such a big fuss?" At this moment, accompanied by a majestic voice, a middle-aged man stepped into the galaxy. His monstrous aura shook the starry sky. It was the king. The inner demons turned to look at the king and smirked. "You've come at the right time. I've long wanted to experience the king's elegance." As soon as he finished speaking, the 3,000 demon emperors turned in the air and charged at the king with various ultimate intents. "What a lawless king!" the Divine King murmured. They didn't even take the king seriously. "I'd also like to see what a prodigy from the Central Dynasty is capable of." The king took a step forward and activated his 3,000 clones. The ultimate intents of the 7 ultimate intents of the 7 ultimate intents erupted and charged at the 3,000 demon emperors. Boom! A series of loud blasts took place in the area. The terrifying shock waves of the battle swept in all directions. In the end, the king overwhelmed the 3,000 demon emperors of the inner demons with his advantage in numbers. Because the king had mastered the ultimate intents of the 7 ultimate intents. The inner demons had only activated the ultimate intents of the 6 ultimate intents. This was the advantage in numbers. But the king was also quite surprised. The demon emperors could indeed compete with the 3,000 clones. It seemed that the Central Dynasty wanted to use this person's demon emperors to suppress the purple gold divine dragon clan. Haha, the king is indeed the king. He's far from being comparable to those trash. The inner demon's fighting spirit was also stimulated. He stepped out into the air, bringing with him a monstrous wave of blood as he engaged in an intense battle with the monarch. Rumble. Terrifying shock waves enveloped the galaxy like raging waves. About a few hundred rounds passed. The inner demons was already dripping with blood. But at this moment his eyes flashed with killing intent. The king immediately felt a sense of danger, and a sense of fear rose in his heart. Stop! But suddenly, a hoarse voice was heard. A white-haired old man descended on the galaxy. It was Yu Lao who led the team from the Central Dynasty. Looking at the inner demons who were boiling with fighting spirit, Yu Lao said helplessly, "Can't you stop?" "It's none of your business. If you talk nonsense again, I'll beat you up too, old man." The inner demons snorted, but they also stopped fighting. The 3,000 demon emperors also disappeared. The corner of Yu Lao's mouth twitched. He looked at the king and the divine king and smiled apologetically. "I'm sorry, this kid is like this. When he sees a strong person, he wants to learn from them." The two looked at each other and were speechless. Was this called learning from each other? It was clearly a merciless battle to the death. But because of Yu Lao's face, they couldn't say much. Yu Lao looked at the inner demons and said, "Apologize to the king and the divine king." "Apologize? With just them? Old man, you must have taken the wrong medicine. Do I look like someone who will apologize?" The inner demons sneered arrogantly, opened a space-time passage, and left without looking back. "Bastard, do you know what it means to respect the old and love the young?" Yu Lao was so angry that his beard blew and his eyes widened. He looked at Lu Jiajin and said, "Aren't you going to do something about it?" "Even you can't do anything about it. How can I?" Lu Jiajin smiled helplessly and looked at Yu Lao, the king and the divine king. He cupped his hands and smiled. "I won't disturb you from catching up. Goodbye." After that, he turned around and stepped into the space-time passage, leaving with the inner demons. The corner of Yu Lao's mouth kept twitching. These two youngsters were indeed outstanding. However, their personalities were too unruly. "I'm really sorry." He looked at the divine king and the king and smiled apologetically again. "It's okay. It's normal for young people to be arrogant. Besides, they do have the right to be arrogant." The king waved his hand. The 3,000 clones also dissipated. "Lord Ruler, you're right. The king is righteous." Elder Yu smiled faintly. "I'm sorry. I still have a lot to learn in front of you." The king waved his hand. He knew a little about this old man. He was a figure of the same era as Boss G and the other old men. So he was really a junior in front of this person. "Don't be so humble. The position of the king is not something that ordinary people can take up." Yu Lao smiled hoarsely and asked, "How is your father?" "Thank you for your concern. My father is very good." The king smiled. "All right. When I have time, I'll go to the ancestral land of the purple gold divine dragons. It'll be a revisit." Yu Lao smiled. "You're welcome at any time." The king smiled. Yu Lao smiled and looked at the king and the divine king. He said, "Also inform the supreme of the human race to go to the Dragon God Mountain in 3 days. I have something to discuss with him." "Okay." The two nodded. After Yu Lao left, the king immediately looked at Ryuko and the divine king and said angrily, "You're asking to be humiliated. Go back immediately and reflect on your mistakes." The two felt wronged. Who knew that this person had a trump card that was not inferior to the 3,000 clones? But in the face of the king's reproach, they did not dare to say anything. They lowered their heads and left. You can't blame them. Even if they didn't come today, those two would have killed their way to the purple gold divine dragon clan tomorrow. The divine king looked at the backs of Ryuko and the divine king and smiled at the king. "I know. But I just feel like I'm disappointed." The king said angrily. "I agree." The divine king smiled bitterly. If it was Qin Feiyang, how could he let those two be so arrogant? But then again, that blood-red-clothed youth is really something. If not for Yu Lao's appearance, I'm afraid that even I would have died in his hands. The king frowned. No way. The divine king was shocked. Before Yu Lao appeared, I felt a dangerous aura from him. That feeling was very real. So I guess that he's hiding some trump card. The king said in a deep voice. The divine king's pupils shrank. What kind of monster was this? The king took a deep breath and said, What do you think about going to Dragon God Mountain in 3 days? Do you even need to think about it? You just want to be a peacemaker and resolve the grudge between us and the Dragon God. The divine king pouted. These people from the Central Dynasty really like to meddle in other people's business. From this matter, it seems that the Oceanic race and the Beast race are really the ruler's trusted aides. If it were us 3 races, the Central Dynasty would definitely not be so proactive. The king snorted discontentedly. So, our decision back then was correct. This ruler is no longer worthy of our lives. The divine king's eyes flashed coldly. As the ruler of the divine kingdom, I don't want you to be fair. But you can't be too biased either. If you did that, where would the god race, the human race, and the purple gold divine dragon clan stand? Were they really treating the 3 major races as cannon fodder? Chapter 4172. Wait. Should we talk to Qin Feiyang about this? Tell him to make some arrangements. The divine king transmitted his voice. What do you mean? The monarch looked at the divine king suspiciously. The divine king's eyes flashed with killing intent. If the Central Dynasty's prodigy dies in the hands of the Dragon God, do you think Yu Lao will still help the Dragon God? The monarch was shocked to hear this. He didn't expect the divine king to have such a crazy idea. But if that was the case, not only would the Central Dynasty not help the Dragon God, but they would also attack the Dragon God. In this way, they could use the Central Dynasty to get rid of the Dragon God. You don't say. The more I think about it, the more I think it's feasible. The divine king said, Okay, I'll go talk to Qin Feiyang. The monarch nodded. Be careful. Now that the Central Dynasty is here, there's no need for any accidents. The divine king reminded him. I know. The monarch smiled. If he couldn't handle this well, wouldn't he have been a monarch for so many years in vain? In the village, Qin Feiyang and the other 2 were in seclusion in the back mountain tea garden. Master Jijio didn't dare to leave the tea garden. He was on tenterhooks every day, afraid that he would lose a few tea trees if he wasn't careful. Whoosh! The monarch arrived at the tea garden and looked at Master Jiju, who was sitting alone at the tea table with an irritated expression. Master Jiju, you seem to be in a good mood. How can you tell that I'm in a good mood? Master Jiju raised an eyebrow. Ha! The monarch couldn't help but laugh. Master Jiju stared at him and frowned. You came here for something? Yes, I want to discuss something with Qin Feiyang. The monarch nodded. Master Jiju rolled his eyes and asked with a smile, Little Wang, how does Master Jiju usually treat you? The monarch looked at Master Jiju warily. Answer me. Master Jiju glared at him. That goes without saying. He's definitely very good to me. If it weren't for your careful guidance, I wouldn't have my current achievements and status. The monarch quickly put on a flattering smile. Not bad, not bad. Do you still remember how well I treated you? Master Jiju nodded with a smile. Just say what you want to say. Don't beat around the bush. The king smiled bitterly. Such a courteous attitude really made him uncomfortable. All right, then this old man will say it directly. Do me a favor and get Qin Feiyang and Long Chen out of here. Jiju said. Ugh. The monarch was startled and asked suspiciously, did they do something wrong? No. Jiju shook his head. Then how dare you let them go? The monarch was puzzled. Aren't you asking the obvious? With them here, can this old man still enjoy life in peace? This old man heard from Dong Jingyang that Long Qin is also a person who loves tea as much as his life. Qin Feiyang alone is already a headache for this old man. With Long Qin here, can this old man still feel at ease? Master Jijiu rubbed his forehead. In the past 2 days he had thought of many ways, but Qin Feiyang and Long Chen refused to leave. They wanted to stay here, so he asked the monarch for help. Looking at Master Jijiu's irritated look, the monarch's face flushed red. Still laughing, Master Jijiu glared at him fiercely. No, I just feel that it's just a little tea tree. Just be generous and give them some. When the time comes, you don't need to say anything. They will leave by themselves. The monarch laughed. In your dreams, Master Jijiu snorted and glared at the monarch. I think you are also an unreliable person. Forget it. This old man will think of a way myself. The monarch smiled helplessly, turned his head to look at the wooden building, and shouted, Qin Feiyang, come out. I have something to discuss with you. After a while, Qin Feiyang and the other two walked out of the wooden building. They were in good spirits. That was especially true of Qin Feiyang and Long Qin. To them, this place was like heaven. Master Jijiu, your majesty. Qin Feiyang waved to the two from afar and greeted them. Annoying. Master Jijiu turned his head and looked away. Qin Feiyang, Long Qin, and Dong Jingyang looked at each other and walked over with a smile. Good tea. Looking at the teapot on the tea table, Qin Feiyang's eyes lit up. He poured a cup of tea without hesitation and tasted it comfortably. Boy, do you still know how to be polite? Master Jijiu frowned. Did he ask for his permission? Great-grandfather, we are family. Why are you being so polite? Qin Feiyang smiled and acted like a dead pig that was not afraid of boiling water, which made Master Jijiu quite depressed. It was better to be polite. It was actually good to be an outsider. Long Chen poured a cup of tea for himself and drank it with a face full of enjoyment. Then he looked at the monarch and asked, Your Majesty, what can I do for you? First of all, there is a news that I think it is necessary to tell you. It is about the two mysterious young men. The monarch's face immediately became serious. Mysterious young men? Dong Jingyang was stunned and asked, Are they the two masked geniuses from the Central Dynasty? Yes. The monarch nodded. Qin Feiyang and the other two looked at each other. Why were the top 10 geniuses from the Central Dynasty talking about the inner demons and Lu Jiejin? These two are not simple, especially that young man in red. Yesterday, he went to Mount Supreme and severely injured the human race's geniuses. Then they came to the island of gods and crushed the god race's geniuses. They even fought with Ji Shaoi and Ryuko. The monarch said, What? Fought with Ryuko and Ji Shaoi? Qin Feiyang and the other two frowned. They naturally knew about Ryuko and Ji Shaoi's situation. They both controlled 3,000 incarnations and were not to be underestimated. As for the inner demons and Lu Jiejin, although they did not know their strength, they were afraid that they would be at a disadvantage when facing 3,000 incarnations. The monarch asked, You must be thinking that they would be at a disadvantage when facing Ryuko and Ji Shaoi, right? The three nodded. But it is the opposite. Ryuko and Ji Shaoi were completely crushed by them. No, they were crushed by the young man in red. The other person did not make a move from the beginning to the end. The monarch said in a deep voice, What? Qin Feiyang and the other two's faces were full of shock. The inner demons were now so powerful. They could even suppress 3,000 incarnations. One had to know. It was not just one person, but both Ryuko and Ji Shaoi. Both of them had 3,000 incarnations. How powerful would they be if they attacked together? You must be surprised. What is more surprising is that the young man in red created a killing technique called the Demon King's True Body. It is similar to the 3,000 incarnations. Moreover, he has mastered the ultimate profundities of the 6 supreme laws and integrated with the will of the heavenly path. The monarch said. Qin Feiyang and the other 2 could not help but gasp when they heard this. The demon king's true body? The will of the heavenly path? This heart demon was too overbearing, wasn't it? Master Jijiao was also shocked. There was such a genius in the world. I have also fought with him. To be honest, I am not confident that I can defeat him. The monarch smiled bitterly. The 3's faces stiffened. Even the monarch was not confident in facing the inner demons. Just how did this guy cultivate? Their growth was already fast enough, but they did not expect the inner demons to grow even faster. So, you must be mentally prepared. After all, this is a powerful enemy you are about to face. The monarch reminded. Got it. Qin Feiyang nodded. The monarch continued. The divine king and I are thinking about another thing. Should we arrange for the dragon god? What do you mean? The 3 were stunned. The monarch clearly expressed the divine king's intention. The 3 looked at each other. This move was a little vicious. They did not want to give the dragon god a chance to turn the tables. What do you think? The monarch asked. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and turned to look at Long Qin. Long Qin shook his head and said, The plan is not bad, but it is not that easy to carry it out. First, it depends on the central dynasty's trust in the dragon god. If the central dynasty really trusts the dragon god, it will be useless no matter how we instigate. I think so too. Qin Feiyang nodded. Secondly, the dragon god. Killing the central dynasty's geniuses is easy, but it is a little difficult to frame the dragon god. Because for this kind of thing, we must let Yu Lao see the dragon god attack the central dynasty's geniuses with his own eyes. If the dragon god does not have the origin force, then it is still fine. I can completely control him. But in the current situation, none of us can defeat the dragon god, let alone control him. Long Qin shook his head. Then what if we let the dragon god's beast god attack? The monarch asked. That is even more meaningless. Although I can control the beast god, if the beast god attacks and kills the central dynasty's geniuses, then the one who is unlucky is the beast god, not the dragon god. Because even if we want to frame the dragon god, he can completely deny it. Long Qin said. Makes sense. The monarch nodded and shook his head. It seems that this plan will not work. Not necessarily. Long Qin chuckled. The monarch looked at Long Qin again. Long Qin turned to Qin Feiyang and said with a smile, Brother Qin, if this plan is to succeed, we will have to rely on you. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled bitterly. It seems that you have understood what I mean. Long Qin smiled. Understood, but it feels too troublesome to do this. And now that the central dynasty's people have arrived, there are bound to be many variables. Qin Feiyang said worriedly. Chapter 4173. It's indeed troublesome. Besides, if we really succeed, the dragon god will become very valuable to us. It's a bit of a waste to sacrifice him like this. Long Qin thought to himself as he drank his tea. That's right. Instead of letting him be sacrificed, it's better to use him for us. With his strength and the entire beast race, we will definitely be able to destroy the central dynasty. Qin Feiyang nodded. That makes sense. The central dynasty must be destroyed before the ruler of the divine kingdom returns. Otherwise, they will definitely become our hindrance in the future. Long Qin smiled slightly. The two of them had a tacit understanding and basically thought of the same thing. However, the monarch and Master Jijiao were confused. What the hell was he talking about? They didn't understand at all. Dong Zhengyang thought for a while and couldn't help but smile, but he didn't interrupt and just drank his tea. It wasn't that the monarch and Master Jijio weren't as smart as Dong Jingyang. The monarch and Master Jijio couldn't figure it out because they didn't know Qin Feiyang as well as Dong Jingyang. Hey, can you two stop talking in riddles? Master Jijio couldn't stand it anymore and said with a dark face. Qin Feiyang and Master Jijio were stunned. They looked up at the confused monarch and the angry Master Jijio and couldn't help but smile at each other. What are you laughing at? Master Jijio glared at them. Okay. Qin Feiyang quickly waved his hand and said with a smile, Great-grandfather, we're actually talking about Neptune's origin energy. Origin energy? The monarch and Master Jijio looked at each other and immediately became interested. The reason why Neptune and the dragon god were feared by everyone was because of the origin energy in their hands. If they could destroy these two origin energies, even the purple-gold divine dragon race alone would be enough to overturn the sea race and the beast race, let alone the three races. Didn't we kidnap millions of members of the oceanic tribes some time ago? The various sea gods and 2/3 of the core members of the sea gods island. Qin Feiyang smiled. Yes. Jiju nodded. Qin Feiyang said, My goal is to use these sea tribe members to exchange for the source energy in Neptune's hands. So that's what happened. The monarch nodded. Suddenly he frowned and asked, You didn't kill those sea tribe members? Not a single one. But now that they're alive, it's more painful than death. Qin Feiyang smiled. Are you torturing them? Is that necessary? Childish. Master Jijio said in disdain. You're wrong. We didn't torture them at all. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. If you didn't torture them, then why are they suffering more pain than death? This made Jijio a little confused. Qin Feiyang and the other two looked at each other and smiled. Then they looked at Jijio and said, Anyway, they want to die now. As for the reason, let's keep them in suspense. Jijio immediately rolled his eyes. Qin Feiyang smiled and continued, If we can really get the source energy in Neptune's hands, then why should we be afraid of a mere dragon god? That's true. The dragon god's greatest reliance is the power of origin, said Yi Futian. The monarch nodded. So, as long as Neptune's source energy falls into our hands, then we can defeat the dragon god and control him. In this way, not to mention killing the central dynasty's prodigies in front of Yu Lao, even if we ask him to attack Yu Lao, he won't frown. But then again, if the dragon god is really controlled by us, then with his strength, he can become our right-hand man. Why should we send him to his death? Qin Feiyang smiled. The monarch and Jijio looked at each other. Now that he thought about it, it did make some sense. If they could really control the dragon god, then the dragon god would become one of them. If they still sent him to his death, wouldn't it be a waste of a talent? After pondering for a while, the monarch looked at Qin Feiyang and Jijio and frowned. Listening to what you said, there's no need for us to scheme against the dragon god now? Of course not. No one knows the future situation. But now, what we need to do is to find a way to get the source energy in Neptune's hands. In short, whether it's to control the dragon god for our use or to set up a trap to kill the dragon god, the first prerequisite is to get this source energy. Otherwise, we can't do anything. Long Qin explained. The source energy, the monarch pondered for a while, looked up at the two and smiled. We can't help with this matter. You have to plan it yourselves. Qin Feiyang looked at the smile on the monarch's face and said helplessly, Are you planning to be a hands-off boss? What are you talking about? Do you think I want to be a hands-off boss? Do you think I don't want to contribute? But there's no other way. The situation forces us. The monarch looked at Qin Feiyang angrily, but the smile on his face was undisguised. Qin Feiyang and the other two looked at each other and couldn't help but despise him. If he didn't want to, then he didn't want to. Why did he have to find a lot of excuses? Sigh. Is it really good to be so hypocritical? Ahem. Gio coughed dryly, looked at Qin Feiyang and Long Qin, and said, Since you have something important to do, then hurry up and do it. Don't waste time here. Do we have something important to do? Qin Feiyang looked at Long Qin and asked. No. Long Qin shook his head. No. Didn't you say it yourself just now? You want to go to Neptune and ask for the source energy? Gio frowned. That's what you're talking about. Qin Feiyang smiled and shook his head. There's no hurry. We'll deal with it slowly after we come out of seclusion. Don't. We have to strike while the iron is hot. If you don't make a move now, Neptune will wait too long. When the time comes, he might not care about the Sea Clan in your hands. Gio hurriedly said. That makes sense. Qin Feiyang nodded. That's right. When a man does something, he has to be decisive. Gio chuckled. Finally, he was about to send these two boys away. But suddenly, Qin Feiyang shook his head again and said, After thinking about it, there's no need to be so anxious. I think so too. Even if Neptune doesn't care about the millions of Sea Clan members, how can he not care about the hundreds of thousands of core members of the Sea Gods Island and the 20 Sea Gods? We'll plan this slowly after we come out of seclusion. Long Qin nodded with a smile. Gio's face suddenly darkened again. They really wanted to rely on him? Gio, isn't their purpose obvious? Let me tell you, if you don't want to pluck their feathers, they will definitely use all kinds of excuses to stay with you. The monarch transmitted his voice. Do you think I'm stupid? How can I not see what they're thinking? But they want me to pluck their feathers? No way. Gio snorted. Fine. Just pretend I didn't say anything. You can think of a way yourself. I still have a lot of things to deal with, so I won't waste time with you guys. Goodbye. After saying that, the monarch got up and looked at Qin Feiyang and the other two, saying, Then you guys take your time to plan. I'll go back first. Take care. Come and play often in the future. Qin Feiyang waved his hand. Gio raised his eyebrows, judging from his attitude and tone. Did this kid already regard him as the owner of this place? Great-grandfather, shall we go into seclusion? After the monarch left, Qin Feiyang also put down his teacup, got up, and looked at Gio with a smile. Gio didn't say anything with a dark face. Let's go. Qin Feiyang smiled at Long Qin, then turned and walked toward the wooden building. 1. Suddenly, Gio's voice sounded. Ha! Qin Feiyang and Long Qin were taken aback. They turned to look at Gio suspiciously and asked, Are you talking to us? If I'm not talking to you, am I talking to a ghost? Gio roared, took a few deep breaths, suppressed the anger in his heart, and said with a cold face, There is only one tea tree of each kind, and this is the last time. Qin Feiyang and Long Qin looked at each other. Is this true? Did they hear it wrong? Gio said angrily, Do you want me to dig it out personally and send it to you? Qin Feiyang came to his senses and quickly waved his hand, saying, No, we'll do it ourselves. How dare we trouble you to do it yourself? After saying that, he grabbed Long Qin and urged, Don't just stand there, hurry up! Okay. Long Qin nodded repeatedly. Why did it feel like a dream? So, the two of them excitedly swept through the tea garden. Can you be gentler? Don't hurt the roots. Hey, be careful. Don't hurt the tea trees next to you. Yes, be gentle. Gio looked at them with heartache. Dong Xingyang stood aside obediently with a hint of a smile in his eyes. How could this escape Gio's eyes? His face darkened, and he said angrily, Is it your bad idea? Huh. Dong Xingyang looked at Gio with a puzzled face. Don't play dumb with me. Among the three of you, only you know me better. Pestering her relentlessly. I can't believe you can think of such a shameless method. Gio snorted coldly. No. I owe you a debt of gratitude for recognizing my worth and nurturing me. How could I possibly instigate them to do that? Dong Zhengyang hurriedly shook his head. Pretend, continue to pretend. It's a waste of your talents if you don't act. Ji Jiu's face was full of disdain. Ha! Dong Zhengyang laughed dryly. The older the ginger, the spicier it was. Nothing could escape this old man's eyes. Finally, Qin Feiyang and Long Qin finished sweeping. There was one of each variety, so there were 20 of them. Are you satisfied now? Ji Jiu glared at the two of them. Looking at the pits in the tea garden, his heart was bleeding. Thank you, great-grandfather. Great-grandfather is the most generous. Qin Feiyang bared his teeth and whispered, Brother Long, quickly put them away. Otherwise, when the old master regrets it, our efforts will be in vain. Long Qin was stunned. He looked at Ji Jiu and asked, You're giving them all to me? Otherwise, this time I asked for them especially for you. Of course, if you want to be polite, then we'll split them in half. Qin Feiyang smiled flatteringly at the old master while muttering to Long Qin in a low voice. Who's being polite with you? Long Qin rolled his eyes and waved his hand, and all 20 tea trees disappeared in an instant. Chapter 4174. Are you satisfied now? You can get lost now. Ji Jiu's face was dark and he was in a bad mood. This, Qin Feiyang stammered. But before he could finish, Master Ji Jiu pointed at the foot of the mountain and roared, Disappear immediately, immediately! Okay. We'll visit you again when we're free. Qin Feiyang quickly nodded and dragged Long Qin away. Visit me again. The corner of Ji Jiu's mouth twitched. He'd better not come again. Otherwise, this tea garden would be destroyed sooner or later. He took away 60 of his tea trees in 2 visits. It was simply asking for his life. Take it easy, Jiu. If you don't get rid of the old, the new won't come. Dong Zhengyang comforted him. Then go and find some new tea trees for me. Ji Jiu glared at him fiercely. It was easy for him to say that. It's really not your tea trees. Don't you feel bad? Dong Zhengyang smiled embarrassedly. Which tea lover didn't treat the divine tea tree as a treasure? Where could he find it? But then again, Ji Jiu lowered his head and pondered for a while. He frowned and said, Why is Qin Feiyang so good to Long Qin? For Long Qin's sake, you shamelessly came to pester me? Is their relationship even better than his relationship with the madman? That's not it. Qin Feiyang's relationship with the madman and the white-eyed wolf is the best, because they have gone through life and death together. As for Long Qin, Dong Zhengyang was silent for a moment and sighed. Actually, the relationship between Long Qin and them wasn't good in the past. What do you mean? Ji Jiu was suspicious. Long Qin is a member of the dragons of the ancient world. Once, the dragons of the ancient world, Long Qin's mother, had always wanted to snatch Qin Feiyang and Qin Beishan's purple-gold dragon blood. It was also because of this that the two sides began to fight to the death. In the end, the dragons were exterminated by Qin Feiyang and the lunatic, leaving only Long Zun and Long Qin. Dong Zhengyang sighed. Extermination? Ji Jiu's face was full of shock as he asked, Why are they still so friendly when they have the enmity of exterminating their clan? Although Long Zun's personality is not good, Long Qin's personality is very good. He's an open and above-board person. When they fought in the ancient world, Qin Feiyang and the mad scientist admired Long Qin very much. Afterwards, they entered the sky cloud realm one after another. In the beginning, the conflict also became more and more intense. Long Qin's father is an almighty. He ordered the dragons of the sky cloud realm to attack Qin Feiyang. He also ordered 2 sovereign divine weapons to assassinate Qin Feiyang repeatedly. You should be able to imagine how dangerous it is for a person who hasn't stepped into the sovereign realm to face the assassination of two sovereign divine weapons at any time. However, Qin Feiyang relied on his companions and the support of countless creatures in the Black Tortoise realm to survive the calamities and become the #1 person in the Sky Cloud realm. Dong Jinyang smiled. Then it's really not easy for him. Ji Jiao shook his head. It was not difficult to imagine how desperate it was for a person who didn't even have the cultivation of a sovereign realm to face two sovereign divine weapons. Later, Long Chen's father didn't interfere anymore. Because of this, Qin Feiyang was able to get some time to breathe. But during this period, Long Chen didn't make a move. Even when he was being chased by the Feng people, Long Chen even saved him. Because in Long Chen's eyes, the root cause of the destruction of the dragons in the ancient realm wasn't Qin Feiyang, but his mother. Because his mother, Long Zun, was very unfriendly to the creatures in the ancient realm. There was also Qin Batian. He was the first person to fight against the dragons. And in the ancient realm, he even established the Dragon's Slayer Palace in order to destroy the dragons and return peace to the ancient realm. Therefore, Long Chen's hatred for Qin Feiyang wasn't that strong. However, they really reconciled with each other thanks to the divine kingdom. Dong Jinyang smiled. Thanks to us? Ji Jiao was stunned. Yes, the invasion of the divine kingdom made them temporarily put aside their grudges, because at that time, only they could contend with the people of the divine kingdom in the Sky Cloud realm. Dong Jinyang smiled. So that's how it is. Ji Jiao nodded and said with a smile, this means that they are very responsible people. That's true. Whether it's Qin Feiyang or Long Chen, they both have benevolent hearts. At the beginning, joining forces to fight against the geniuses of the divine kingdom was just the beginning. The people who really made them put aside their grudges were actually the monarch, the divine king, and the sovereign of the human race, Lord Ji. Dong Jinyang said with a smile. What do you mean? Ji Jiao was curious. At that time, Qin Feiyang comprehended the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death, so he had to face the terrifying heavenly tribulation. At the same time, the monarch and the others came in person, which undoubtedly made things worse. Long Chen knew that if Qin Feiyang really died in the hands of the monarch and the others, the Sky Cloud realm would definitely fall. So not only did he sacrifice himself to protect Qin Feiyang, but he also let his sister, Long Qin, join the battle. The battle with the monarch and the others was quite tragic. But because of this, they really put aside their grudges and became close friends who would go through life and death together. Dong Jinyang smiled slightly. So, they have to thank the monarch and the others? Ji Jiao was stunned. More or less. As for Qin Feiyang coming here shamelessly to help Long Chen ask for the tea tree, that's because Long Chen helped him a lot. Dong Jinyang said with a smile. What help? Ji Jiao was surprised. For Qin Feiyang to put down his face like this, it was definitely not a small matter. This, if they don't say, this junior can't reveal it. Dong Jinyang smiled embarrassedly. Do you believe that I won't teach you a lesson? Ji Jiao's face darkened. Even if you teach me a lesson, I can't say anything, because this matter is too important. It can be said that it concerns the fate of all the companions around us. And if Long Chen's ability is known by the Sea Clan, the Beast Clan, and the Central Dynasty, then these three forces will definitely hunt Long Chen down at all costs. Now, everyone hasn't completely grown up yet, so we can't afford such a risk. Dong Jinyang said. Ji Jiao's heart trembled. What kind of ability could have such a great influence? You can say that. Whether we can fight the Sea Clan, the Beast Clan, and the Central Dynasty depends on Long Chen. Dong Jinyang said with a smile. Ji Jiao took a breath, and the curiosity in his heart grew stronger. Suddenly he was stunned and asked suspiciously, You just said that Long Chen's father is a mighty figure. Yes, Dong Zhengyang nodded. What kind of existence? Ji Jiao was a little incredulous. Dong Zhengyang's strength was not bad, and he had the eye of destiny. How powerful must he be to become a mighty figure in his eyes? This, Dong Zhengyang smiled and said, it's not convenient to say. You, Ji Jiao was extremely angry. It was not convenient to say anything. Was it that exaggerated? It's really inconvenient. Anyway, if we anger this mighty figure, none of us will have a good ending, including Qin Feiyang now. This was not Dong Zhengyang's alarmist words. Although Qin Feiyang's current strength was very strong, he might not be able to fight against Ice Dragon. No way! Ji Jiao's scalp tingled when he heard this. In terms of personal strength, Qin Feiyang was now above this group of old antiques, but he couldn't beat Long Chen's father? What kind of existence was this? So, I want to say that you didn't lose out by giving Long Chen these 20 tea trees today, because in the future you might have unexpected gains in exchange. Dong Zhengyang smiled slightly. All right, I originally thought that I was knowledgeable, but after hearing what you said today, I feel like a frog at the bottom of a well. Ji Jiao smiled bitterly. You don't have to be like this. In terms of knowledge, juniors like us can't compare to you. Dong Zhengyang smiled and comforted him. At the same time, in the sky above a mountain, Qin Feiyang and Long Qin ran out of the space-time passage with smiles on their faces. How is it? Are you satisfied now? Qin Feiyang turned to look at Long Qin and smiled. It's okay. Long Qin nodded. This is called okay. Do you know that for you I don't even care about my face? Qin Feiyang said angrily. Haha, Long Qin laughed heartily and patted Qin Feiyang's shoulder, saying, Okay, I thank you. That's more like it. Qin Feiyang smiled with satisfaction, pondered for a moment, and said, Then hurry up and go into seclusion. To be honest, without the help of you and senior brother, I'm still under a lot of pressure. Then are you going to negotiate with Neptune directly now? Long Qin frowned. Qin Feiyang thought for a moment and said with a smile, I've already mastered 2 wills of the heavenly Tao, so I'm not in a hurry to comprehend other laws. I'll go and meet Neptune alone first. Then be careful. If you really can't, just wait for us to come out. At that time, with the help of the demon ancestor and Mu Tianyang, it will be easier to deal with Neptune and the others. Long Qin smiled faintly. Qin Feiyang nodded. To be honest, he was really looking forward to the demon ancestor and the others coming out of seclusion, because whether it was the demon ancestor or Mu Tianyang, they all had extremely terrifying methods and brains. When they all came out of seclusion and joined hands, there was probably nothing they couldn't do. All right, send me to the Black Tortoise Realm. I still have to deal with those tea trees first. Long Qin said with a smile. Qin Feiyang pursed his lips and was about to send Long Qin to the Black Tortoise Realm when he suddenly thought of something and frowned. Say the inner demons and big cousin running to challenge the people of the 3 great races. Do they have anything to do with us? Then how would I know? Long Qin smiled helplessly. It wasn't like he was a roundworm in the stomach of the inner demons and Lu Jijin. Besides, he didn't understand the inner demons and Lu Jijin at all. He hadn't even seen them with his own eyes, because when the inner demons and Lu Jijin disappeared, Qin Feiyang and the others had yet to enter the ancient realm. I personally think so. This time the inner demons and big cousin went to the 3 great races. It should be because of us. Because the grudge between us and the 3 great races is no longer a secret. The inner demons and big cousin can casually ask around, so they went to the 3 great races to kill them. And among the 3 great races, the biggest threat is undoubtedly the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan, so when they fought with Ryuko and Ji Shaoi, they wanted to kill them. Qin Feiyang analyzed. Chapter 4175. Maybe. Long Chen nodded. As close relatives. Knowing that Qin Feiyang was bullied by the three major races, it was not impossible that the inner demons and Lu Jiejin would help to vent their anger. This is what I am worried about. Now the inner demons and big cousin still don't know that we have formed an alliance with the three major races. What if they find a chance to kill the three major races again? Because Qin Feiyang knew the inner demons' character too well. They had always done whatever they wanted. Don't worry about this. They are now members of the Divine Kingdom. Even if they want to kill the three major races, the Central Dynasty will not allow it. Otherwise, when the inner demons were on the island of the gods and prepared to kill the monarch, Yu Lao would not have stopped them. Long Chen comforted him. That makes sense. Qin Feiyang nodded. After pondering for a while, he said, but for the sake of safety, we should still find a chance to meet them and tell them about our alliance with the three major races, lest they hurt our own people. Don't. Long Chen hurriedly stopped him. What do you mean? Qin Feiyang looked at him suspiciously. When we were in the restaurant, they did not even respond to our voice transmission. This means that they might be worried about something. So I suggest that we should not take the initiative to look for them. We should wait for them to come to us. Long Chen said. What exactly are they worried about? Qin Feiyang could not help but frown. Maybe their current situation is not as good as what we see. Long Chen whispered. You mean that someone is watching them? Qin Feiyang was surprised. Who knows? But for people like them with unknown origins and terrifying strength, if I were the Central Dynasty's people, I would also be worried. Long Chen shook his head. Qin Feiyang touched his chin thoughtfully. Suddenly, he smiled and said, no matter how suspicious the people of the Central Dynasty are, they won't suspect that Inner Demon and Big Cousin are acquainted with us. How so? Long Chen asked with a smile. Because they appeared in the Divine Kingdom 1,000 years ago. At that time, the Divine Kingdom hadn't invaded the Sky Cloud realm yet. Therefore, the people of the Central Dynasty naturally believed that the inner demons and Big Cousin were from the Divine Kingdom. Qin Feiyang smiled. That's right. As long as their identities are handled properly, they will never be exposed. As for the ability to conceal their identities, I believe they still have it. Without this ability, the inner demons and Lu Jiejin would have been exposed long ago in the Divine Kingdom. But to be honest, I'm really itching for a fight with the inner demons. Let's see if he's stronger, or if I'm stronger. Qin Feiyang laughed. You are the same person. Is it necessary? Long Chen was speechless. Wrong. After he passed the tribulation, he became an independent consciousness. So I am me and he is him. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Whatever. Long Chen shrugged. He then looked at the horizon, a trace of sadness in his eyes. What's wrong? Qin Feiyang looked at him suspiciously. The appearance of the inner demons reminded me of him. Long Chen sighed. Him. Qin Feiyang was stunned. Which him? Suddenly, he showed a look of realization. This him was actually another Long Chen. The former Long Chen was the same as Qin Feiyang. However, Long Chen was not the inner demons but the divine soul. Back then, Long Chen had two divine souls. One was the Ice Dragon soul, and the other was the Sky Dragon soul. The Sky Dragon soul had a gentle personality and was open-minded. The Ice Dragon soul was similar to the inner demons. It was cruel and unscrupulous. These two souls each had their own independent consciousness. But later, the battle between the dragons and the dragon-slaying palace broke out. Long Chen fought with Qin Feiyang and Lunatic. At that time, it was not a match for Qin Feiyang and Lunatic. The Ice Dragon's soul gave up on itself and merged with the Sky Dragon's soul. So, the two divine souls merged into one, which was the current Long Chen. After the fusion, the Ice Dragon's soul completely disappeared. It was because of this that Long Qin could understand Qin Feiyang's sadness when he learned about the death of the inner demons. Because the way he got along with the ice dragon soul was the same as Qin Feiyang and the inner demons. They were as close as brothers. But now, Qin Feiyang's inner demons appeared and became the pride of the central dynasty. Everyone was watching, but his ice dragon's soul had disappeared forever. Some things could be forgotten, but some people, some things had been imprinted in the depths of the soul and could never be forgotten. Qin Feiyang was silent for a long time, then sighed. I'm very sorry about this matter. However, although you have lost the ice dragon soul, you still have us. We are all your brothers. Long Qin looked at Qin Feiyang, shook his head and smiled. I didn't expect you to be such a mushy person. Aren't I comforting you? Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes. Thank you. Long Qin smiled, collected his thoughts, and said, Go do your thing. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded. With a wave of his hand, Long Qin disappeared without a trace. Sigh. How good would it be if the incident in the ancient realm didn't happen? Qin Feiyang looked at the sky alone for a long time. In the end, all the helplessness and regret in his heart turned into a sigh. See clan. I say, you too, what's going on? As soon as you arrived at the 4 great continents, you ran to the 3 major races to mess around. In a hall, Yu Lao stared at the inner demons and Lu Jejin below, Neptune accompanied by the side. However, the inner demons half reclined on the chair, crossing his legs, holding a wine jar in his hand, exuding an intoxicating fragrance. He didn't listen to Yu Lao's lecture at all. As for Lu Jiajin, he also crossed his arms, leaned against a chair, and closed his eyes to rest. I'm talking to you. Yu Lao slapped the armrest of the chair and said angrily, I'm listening. If you want to scold, then hurry up. The inner demons waved impatiently. Yu Lao's face was full of anger. Neptune looked at the side with fear and trepidation. These 2 young people were really arrogant. They didn't take Yu Lao seriously at all. Swish! At this time, Lu Jijin opened his eyes and 2 rays of light burst out. Although they couldn't see his expression, at this moment, whether it was Neptune or Yu Lao, they could feel a dangerous aura. His eyes were like 2 sharp swords containing an amazing sharpness. Hey! Someone is starting to get irritated. Old man, are you sure you want to continue? The inner demons looked at Yu Lao playfully. Yu Lao clenched his hands and stared at the inner demons and Lu Jijin. There was a trace of gloominess in his eyes, and even an invisible pressure. However, whether it was Lu Jejin or the inner demons, they didn't seem to feel it. Lu Jiajin's eyes didn't evade. The atmosphere in the hall gradually became serious. Neptune's forehead couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. This atmosphere was simply suffocating. Don't take yourself too seriously. After a long time, Lu Jejin opened his mouth and said lightly. Then he turned and walked out of the hall without looking back. Did you hear that? Don't take yourself too seriously. The inner demons got up and smiled at Yu Lao. They also took the wine jar and walked away arrogantly. After the 2 left, the atmosphere in the hall eased. Neptune couldn't help but wipe his cold sweat. Yu Lao's face was gloomy. He suddenly slapped the armrest and roared in exasperation. Bastard! You have no respect for your elders! Neptune was shocked. He glanced at Yu Lao. It was the first time he saw someone who dared to be so arrogant in front of this old man. And it was 2 juniors. A moment later, Yu Lao took a deep breath and looked at Neptune. Sorry for making a fool of myself. No. Neptune hurriedly waved his hands. I really don't know whether it was right or wrong to bring them out. Yu Lao shook his head and sighed. This, Neptune pondered for a while and said, their strength is stronger than other geniuses. I'm afraid we really need them to deal with Qin Feiyang. But their personalities, don't mention their personalities. I get angry at the mention of it. Yu Lao snorted coldly. There's nothing we can do about it. Who asked them to be so monstrous? They have the right to be arrogant. You're a person of virtue and prestige. Be more open-minded and don't bicker with two juniors. Neptune comforted. If I really wanted to bicker with them, I'm afraid I would have died of anger. Yu Lao sighed helplessly. After sorting out his emotions, he asked, Qin Feiyang hasn't responded to you yet. No. Neptune shook his head, a cold light flashing in his eyes. Just a few youngsters, and they've actually stirred up chaos in the 4 continents of the Divine Kingdom. These young people nowadays are really terrifying. Elder Yu had a bitter smile on his face. Why are you still praising them? Neptune frowned. I should praise them when I deserve it. After all, they're really capable. However, they should be killed, and they should be killed. A glint of killing intent flashed in Yu Lao's eyes. Lord Neptune, at this time, accompanied by a hurried shout, a middle-aged man with golden wings on his back, hurriedly ran into the hall. Our esteemed guest is here, yet you are so flustered. Where are your manners? Neptune shouted with dissatisfaction. The middle-aged man's expression changed. He quickly looked at Yu Lao and bowed. Please forgive me, Yu Lao. It's okay. Yu Lao waved his hand. Neptune asked, What's the matter? A clansman sent a message to report that Qin Feiyang has responded to your invitation. The middle-aged man said. Neptune and Yu Lao looked at each other. Their eyes flashed, and they asked the middle-aged man, What did he say? He agreed to meet you, but the meeting place is not on the Sea Lion Island, but at the Blackwater Lake in the South Continent. The middle-aged man said, Blackwater Lake? Yu Lao was stunned. The Blackwater Lake is a dead lake. It's quite dangerous for ordinary people, because the mountains around the Blackwater Lake are full of powerful, fierce beasts. It's quite famous in the South Continent. The middle-aged man explained. He didn't come to the Sea God Island. It seems that he's a very vigilant person. Yu Lao whispered. That's for sure. Otherwise, how could he be so arrogant until now? Neptune snorted and looked at the middle-aged man. Did he say anything else? Yes. You're the only one allowed to go. If he finds out that there's a second person present, he'll kill 1,000,000 of our clansmen first. The middle-aged man said, Bastard, I'd like to see if he has the guts to kill the clansmen of the Sea Clan. The Sea King flew into a rage. This threat was not hidden at all. Chapter 4176. Don't be angry. He might be trying to anger you and make you lose your rationality so that he can toy with you. Yu Lao comforted him softly. Neptune shuddered and hurriedly said gratefully, You're right. I can't be angered by him. I have to remain calm at all times. Blackwater Lake. Yu Lao pondered for a while and laughed coldly. Since he asked you to go to the Blackwater Lake, then go. I guarantee that he won't return. Won't return? Neptune was stunned. One had to know. The other party was Qin Feiyang. No one could compare to him in terms of intelligence or tactics. How could Yu Lao be so confident? I know about the Eye of Destiny situation too. It's said that you can only see the other party if you've seen them or know their name. In other words, they can only see your whereabouts now. Yu Lao's eyes sparkled. That's right. You've been on the Sea God's Island ever since you left the Central Dynasty. Even when you went to the God's Island, you went straight to the galaxy. Besides the Divine King, the King Ryuko, and young Master Ji, no one else from the deity race has seen your true appearance. They don't know your name and appearance. Mu Qing's all-seeing, I naturally can't see your whereabouts either. Neptune's expression changed, following which, streaks of cold light flashed in his eyes. Qin Feiyang, it's time for you to die. Yu Lao, do you want to bring those prodigies with you? The middle-aged man suddenly asked. Why? Yu Lao looked at him in confusion. The 10 prodigies that you brought with you have appeared in various places in the 4 great continents. I'm afraid that Qin Feiyang and the rest already know what they look like. I'm thinking that it's not appropriate for you to bring the 10 prodigies with you. The middle-aged man was worried. What you said makes sense. It's also this old man's fault. I didn't think things through and allowed them to run out and cause trouble. Yu Lao's face showed a trace of annoyance. If he had known this would happen, he would have let the 10 of them stay on the sea god's island for the time being. You don't have to blame yourself. After all, you didn't expect him to invite us to the Blackwater Lake. Neptune smiled. Yu Lao waved his hand and said, Don't help this old man find excuses. A mistake is a mistake. However, you can choose not to bring the other geniuses, but you must bring those 2 arrogant little bastards with you. Neptune was a little worried. Don't worry. Both of them are wearing masks. Even if Qin Feiyang and the others know of their existence, they don't know what they look like, let alone their names. Because even this old man doesn't know what they look like, let alone Qin Feiyang. Yu Lao sneered. What? You actually don't know what they look like? Neptune was shocked. Yes, I'm afraid that the only person in the Central Dynasty who has seen their true appearance is the Emperor. Yu Lao nodded. His expression was full of helplessness. Neptune and the middle-aged man looked at each other. So mysterious? The middle-aged man asked cautiously, Then you should know their names, right? I know that. They are brothers. The older brother is called Lu Yunfeng, and the younger brother is called Lu Yuntian. Lu Yunfeng doesn't talk much, and his personality is much better than Lu Yuntian's. However, I'd advise you not to provoke him. Otherwise, he'll be even more terrifying than Lu Yuntian. As for Lu Yuntian, as you can see, he's violent and lawless. Let alone this old man, he's offended most of the big shots in the Central Dynasty. In short, there are no rules in his eyes. Yu Lao shook his head helplessly. Neptune's mouth twitched. He was indeed a ruthless character. At the same time, it also reflected how astonishing the talents of these 2 brothers were. If you dared to provoke the big shots in the Central Dynasty without any ability, you would definitely not live to see the sun tomorrow. The middle-aged man asked curiously, Then who is stronger among the 10 prodigies you brought? Definitely Lu Yunfeng and Lu Yuntian. Although the others are strong, they're still far from being comparable to them. Yu Lao shook his head and sighed. If this pair of brothers had a better temper and treated him with more respect, it would be perfect. Unfortunately, there was no one in this world who was perfect. Either they were talented, or they had a bad temper. Either they had a good temper, or they had bad talent. All right, let's go to Blackwater Lake now. This time, we'll catch them all in one fell swoop. Neptune nodded, killing intent flashing in his eyes. With Yu Lao's help, his confidence skyrocketed. Blackwater Lake in the southern continent. Qin Feiyang did not treat the agreement with Neptune as a secret, so now all the creatures in the 4 continents were basically talking about it. Many creatures even came to Blackwater Lake before Qin Feiyang and Neptune to join in the fun. Blackwater Lake was tens of thousands of miles long. The lake water was as black as ink with a strange aura. According to legend, there was once a giant beast here, and black sweat stains would flow out of its body. It was the sweat of this giant beast that gradually dyed the lake water here black. Of course, this was just a rumor. It was not very reliable, because no one had seen the so-called giant beast with their own eyes. At this moment, a large number of creatures gathered around the lake. There were humans, gods, purple gold divine dragons. There were also beasts and people of the Sea Clan, without exception. They all came here in advance to join in the fun. Do you think Neptune dares to come? It's a little difficult. What do you mean? Look, Qin Feiyang has mastered the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death, and also has two wills of the heavenly Tao. With such strength, even the king, the divine king, and the supreme of the human clan are not his opponents. Think about it, even the three giants who have mastered 3,000 incarnations, the mark of the God clan and the sword of faith are not Qin Feiyang's opponents, let alone Neptune. Although Neptune's status is similar to theirs, I estimate that his strength is not as good as the king and the other two. So I speculate that Neptune does not dare to come. Listening to what you said, it does make sense. Discussions rose and fell one after another. People of the other races were listening with great interest. But when the people of the Sea clan heard these discussions, their faces were full of anger, because as a member of the Sea clan, they felt ashamed when they heard people talk about Neptune like this. What nonsense are you talking about? How can the king and the other two be compared to Lord Neptune's strength? Let me tell you, the Lord Neptune you know now is just the tip of the iceberg. The people of the Sea clan roared angrily. Sea clan, what do you mean? Neptune is your lord. It's understandable that you flatter him. But shouldn't you recognize the truth when you flatter him? The king has 3,000 incarnations. The divine king has the mark of the God clan. And the supreme of the human clan has the sword of faith. What does Neptune have? You still dare to boast shamelessly about Neptune's strength. How can the king and the other two be compared to him? What? In the eyes of the Sea clan, the king and the other two are not even qualified to be compared to Neptune? If he is so powerful, why don't the Sea clan go to heaven? The words of the people of the Sea clan immediately aroused the dissatisfaction of the other three races, and they all attacked together. If the Sea clan wants to go to heaven, what can you do? Moreover, the Beast clan is supporting the Sea clan. The group of beasts also couldn't help but speak against the three races. Yo, the Beast clan still has the face to speak. Colluding with Qin Feiyang, killing Ji Tianfeng and betraying Neptune, causing the Sea clan to lose millions of people and the 20 sea gods to be wiped out. The most ridiculous thing is that you used to make false accusations, saying that the king and the other two are colluding with Qin Feiyang. Is this the style of the Beast clan? You still support the Sea clan? Why don't you ask the Sea clan first? Do they need your support? The three races retorted sarcastically. Don't talk nonsense. This is Qin Feiyang's trick. The Beast clan was furious. Whether it's a trick or not, you know clearly in your hearts. Brother, why are you arguing with these beasts? Haven't you heard the saying, the thief calls the police? All kinds of mocking laughter sounded particularly ear-piercing. The ferocious beasts of the beast race couldn't hold back their anger. They roared, "You call him a beast?" Aya, did we say anything wrong? Look at you, not only do you look like beasts, but your personalities are worse than beasts. Not convinced. If you're not convinced, come and beat us. Let's see if you have the ability to do so. The three races sneered. Bastard, I'll kill you all. One of the beasts couldn't help but roar and pounce on the people of the three races. Do you think you're still in the East Continent? This is the South Continent. You're in the territory of the God clan. A burly man of the God clan shouted angrily and activated the mark of the God clan. A supreme arcane appeared, exuding a powerful aura and blasted toward the beast. Their strength was about the same. However, with the blessing of the God clan's mark, the burly man of the God clan naturally had the power to destroy it. The beast was sent flying on the spot, its body almost torn apart. How dare you bully the Beast clan? Brothers, kill them! Following a roar, the fierce beasts present immediately charged towards the divine race with a ferocious aura. Do you think I'm afraid of you beasts? The God clan sneered. There were estimated to be thousands of people on both sides. The scene immediately became a mess. The Beast Clan came to the South Continent and dared to be so arrogant. Brothers of the Human Clan, come with me to help. A human youth roared. Clansmen, we can't watch the God Clan and the Human Clan be bullied. Let's kill them together. A young man of the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan also roared. Yes, beat them up. Beat these beasts up. The people of the two races roared angrily as they charged into the battlefield. With their addition, the scene became even more chaotic. For a moment, the Oceanids were a little confused. Weren't they targeting the Oceanids? Why did the Beast Clan and the three races start fighting first? What should we do? Should we help the Beast Clan or not? Help my ass. The Dragon God has caused the Oceanids to be in this state. They deserve it. If it weren't for the fact that the other party is from the Human Clan, the God Clan, and the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan, I would have beaten these beasts up. Many of the Oceanids sneered and stood aside to watch the show. You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.